What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
8 id. Chapter 171. Advertise here. Shopping street. The bustling scene just now has become shattered, and the floors on the ground have cracked. Huh, you can hold on without weapons. Momosuke Vice Admiral. Charlotte Snug, one of the 4 stars of desserts, took his younger siblings and looked at Momosuke, who was protecting Robin, with weapons in their hands. A few people just met in the dessert shop. Momosuke had a strong conflict with Charlotte Snug a few years ago. The enemy he hadn't seen for a long time was extremely jealous. Charlotte Snug and several younger siblings directly ignored it. The rules in the Golden City shot Momosuke. Momosuke didn't bring his own sword when he came to go shopping with Robin, but Momosuke, who was an alternate for the former admiral, could completely withstand the attack of a few people. But when Charlotte Snug noticed that Momosuke had been paying attention to Robin who had just escaped, they rushed to attack Robin. Momosuke could only drag him passively in order to protect Robin. Ha, ha, you pirates, really can't help but 9 days. Even Momosuke, engaged in a fast offensive and defensive battle, is extremely stamina consuming, so he must not take a deep breath to adjust his state. Ha ha ha, lawlessness, ha ha ha, Tezzolo dare not offend mother for such a trivial matter. Your sword didn't kill me back then, regret it. Charlotte Snug laughed haha, huh. Just rely on you. Of course, we can't keep you at all, but if you want to protect that little girl, you won't be our opponent. Momosuke Vice Admiral. Boom. Just as Charlotte Snug laughed triumphantly, a black shadow smashed directly at Charlotte Snug from the air. The strong impact damaged the surrounding floor with a radius of tens of meters and produced huge smoke. It's okay. Gion, I'm late. Luo Ye's voice came from the smoke. Luo Ye waved his left hand in the smoke and completely dissipated the smoke. Momosuke and Robin looked at Charlotte Snug, who was holding Luo Ye's neck in his hands. As for his younger brothers and sisters, they were already lying unconscious in the pit. Who are you guys? Luo Ye grabbed Charlotte Snug's neck with his right hand and asked Charlotte Snug. Charlotte Snug was full of arms at the moment Luo Ye struck. But Luo Ye was seriously injured with ease, and he could only breathe painfully in Luo Ye's hands. I'm Charlotte Snug from the Big Mom Pirate Group, you better let me go, our mother won't let you go, Monkey D. Luo Ye, cough. Ha. Then leave it alone. Luo Ye pressed the palm of his hand lightly, just listening for a lifetime. Charlotte Snug's neck crooked and lost consciousness. Luo Ye dropped Charlotte Snug's body and walked towards Momosuke. Are you okay? Luo Ye gently stroked Momosuke's slightly bruised fist. Momosuke looked at Luo Ye in front of him gently and shook his head slowly. Robin behind him could only eat dog food silently. Go back first, it just happened that something happened to me suddenly. Momosuke held Luo Ye's hand tightly, nodded and replied, well, I listen to you. Kingdom of Todo Land. Location somewhere in New World. Here, it can no longer be distinguished simply by the identity of the pirate group. The Big Mom Pirate Group here is the symbol of the country. It is different from the successful Doflamingo who steals the country, and it is also different from the crocodile who has not succeeded in stealing the country, and now I don't know where to roam. Todo Land, the captain of the Big Mom Thieves group, Charlotte Linlin did it by himself with a single shot. The ministers who governed the country and the bureaucrats of the administration were all born of her own. In the last life, it is a model for women in the new era. Among the 4 emperors, Kaido controls Wano-kuni, but there are hidden dangers. The territory controlled by Red Hair is more Buddhist, and basically depends on them for autonomy, but with flags. The same is true for Whitebeard, just sheltering a few islands, not paying attention to their lives, nor looting their living supplies. Tenten lives on his main ship and leads a life of family harmony with his sons. Only Charlotte Linlin, her kingdom, Todo Land, is the only one that can be recognized as a powerful country in New World. For such an existence, Luo Ye really doesn't want to cause this trouble if it is not necessary. After all, in the plan to be executed soon, Charlotte Linlin is also an important chess piece, and the role played is still very heavy. But now, your son dared to take action against my people and look for death. Luo Ye burst out a few words from between his teeth, his body burst into the air, breaking through the air at a faster speed, and a huge shadow on the sky also accelerated and flew away as Luo Ye accelerated. 4 emperors. The 4 emperors are amazing. What's so great about a group of disability and neurosis? It's not a broken hand here, or a wound on the stomach over it, it's not sick anymore, it's a crazy woman over there. Anyway, don't let them linger this time, whether his Luo Ye's plan can be implemented well. According to Charlotte Snug, the Big Mom Pirate Group has already started searching under the instructions of Charlotte Linlin. Luo Ye and Bullet's plan, but also began to privately contact various underground kings. Let her do this, how can Luo Ye carry on the plan perfectly? There is no point in having only a few 4 emperors participating in the Eternal Pointer battle. If the world government knows it, they can laugh in their dreams. The country of Todo Land is a vast area radiating outward from the 207 base camp, Cake Island, of the Big. Although there is no such excellent natural location as Wano-kuni's pervert, but wanting to break through to the Cake Island by ship, it is just like dreaming. Guarding its 34 islands, that is 34 satellites, the threat has long been wiped out. In the center of these 34 islands, Toast Island is one of the military islands among the 34 islands. On the other islands, some are inhabited by civilians under the control of pirates, but Tusi Island is a purely military island. The full town on the island is full of pirates, and the harbor is full of ships used by pirates to attack. This is the station of Charlotte Linlin's fourth son, Charlotte Owen. Hey, Owen, Snug seems to be back. Quote. At this time, in the resident, a tall and sturdy man with short yellow hair, earrings, wearing a blue padded jacket, and a belt similar to a magic lamp said at his waist. Charlotte Daifuku, Charlotte Linlin's third son. In front of him, there is a man with golden orange hair that resembles flames and is divided into 3 axe blades. He has a beard on his chin and wears gloves. He looks very serious, showing the indifference on the face of the person who speaks. Inversely. But in fact, they are brothers. The 3 of them are triplets. Chapter 172. Advertise here. Snug. He'll be fine when he comes back. After all, he is our lovely brother. Owen said. Dafu said with disdain. HMPH, I went to have fun in the Golden City, that's fine, I didn't expect to be defeated by the guy Tezzolo. Not only that, but when he was sent back, he was still not awake. It's really shameful, is it still served as a dessert, 4 stars. Quote. The other party is the Golden Emperor after all. It is normal for him to suffer a loss in his own field. Owen said, just come back, it's best if nothing happens. Okay. Dafu touched his chin and said, I heard that the monkey D Luo Ye with a high reward has also appeared in the Golden City. I hope that this time has nothing to do with him. After all, that guy is also a monster. Monkey D Luo Ye. Owen was taken aback, as the guy who killed Leadfield and Golden Lion. Yes, it's him. Dafu sneered. But Leatherfield is already old. Killing an old guy made the people in the world start to fear Luo Ye. When we find Luo Ye, kill him and take a look at the world. What will happen? Not so easy to deal with. Owen shook his head. After all, Leatherfield is the one that my mother values. It's impossible to get rid of him just with our combat power. Let him suffer a bit, at least he can do it, and you don't want to look at that guy too high. Dafu said, let him understand that offending Big Mom is a very scary thing. Rumble. As soon as the voice fell, there was a sound in the sky. When the two looked up, they saw the sky darkening inexplicably. Is it going to rain? Daifuku reached out his hand, but he didn't feel the raindrops. It's thundering, probably because of heavy rain. Owen glanced at the sky and yelled at the pirates who were moving ahead, go to the boat and fix the anchor. Don't let the storm break the boat. Quote exclamation mark quote. Yes, Lord Owen, the pirates said in unison, preparing to head to the port. It's a rainy day, just come, but New World has always been like this. A pirate shrugged and looked towards the sky subconsciously, but with only one glance, he froze and stared at the sky blankly. Is there someone there? He pointed to the sky and hesitated. Where is anyone? A pirate next to him covered his forehead with his hand and looked at it as well. After watching for a while, he frowned and said, I didn't see anyone. Did you drink too much? No, I don't. I'm pretty sure that there is a person standing there. The pirate pointed in that direction and said firmly, look, it's getting closer and closer. What are you kidding? How could anyone fly in the sky, sky? The speaker just wanted to refute, but in the end, he couldn't say anything. He saw it. In the sky, a figure like a human gradually appeared and expanded, descending downward. At the same time, as he landed, there was an increasingly cloudy sky, dark, as if the sky fell over. Dafu. That is. Owen stared at the sky at this time, and the depressed breath instantly covered the island, causing the island as a whole to tremble. Hey, what a joke, this thing. Dafu couldn't hold his cold face at this moment, staring at the sky in horror. His attention was no longer on the tiny figure under the landing sky, but more on the sky that seemed to fall down. That thing gradually emerged from under the black clouds. First, a layer of rock surface was revealed. Immediately after that, the surface quickly spread from under the clouds, gradually making the edge invisible. Mainland. This is a whole continent falling down. Did Sky Island fall? Owen yelled in surprise. No, that person, he is. Dafu only noticed at this time, the figure that was getting downward. The man was dressed in a black suit and a black cloak fluttered freely under the strong wind. Under the scattered black hair, the handsome face was biting a cigarette, and the smoke came up with it, covering his expression. But that face was recognized by Dafu. Monkey D Luo Ye. At the same time he recognized the person, the figure above, pressing down with his big hand, the continent exposed from the clouds, obviously accelerated a lot, rushed through the air, and rubbed out a huge spark, like a meteorite, smashed down. To this small island. The huge continent fell from the sky like a meteorite, falling rapidly. Luo Ye himself doesn't know how high the island he raised in the word, Kun, has risen not long ago. Anyway, Luo Ye just flew in the sky and couldn't see it there. Exceeding Sky Island. That must be exceeded. When it reaches outer space, there is no such thing. He didn't smile after all, his ability was different. One is to use gravity to pull down directly through seeing, hearing and color, which can scare people to death with a large range of capabilities. Backquote, what a joke. Just as Luo Ye's thoughts were flying, there was a roar from the small island below, and he saw the person with the head like a flame axe burning all over, glowing with red gas, and the fists directly ignited. Fire, with both palms up to the sky, seems to want to resist the falling meteorite. Luo Ye glanced at him and said, "Who is this man? Can you catch fire? Burn it." "No, I don't know where it is now. Is it another subordinate? But it can be developed into this way, it is very powerful, and sure enough. None of the pirates of New World have a good relationship." Quote. Owen opened his hands, igniting a cloud of heat, and the surface of the falling rock was burnt red. He is a person with the ability to heat fruits, and his ability has been developed to an extremely high level, capable of heat-treating objects from a long distance and burning them in disguise. It's just that this power is insignificant in front of the big Zhao Island that completely covers their island a lot more. Big as beauty, big as power. Absolute body shape is a kind of power in itself. Dafu, come and help. Owen turned around and yelled dong. It's just his twin brothers, who are now ready to retreat. Flee now. Dai Fuku shouted, it's impossible to deal with this thing. Marine has come to attack. We want to pass the news to Mom. Do you want me to abandon this island? Abandon the mission my mother gave me, and abandon this island that can protect my mother? Owen roared. Idiot, this can be done by manpower, so you can save your life and report it to your mother. Dafu said anxiously. What a joke, how can this kind of thing escape? Owen pulled out the long-handled blade behind his back, burning flames from the blade. He took off high and went straight to the landing island to chop off. How can it be repaired? Chapter 173. Advertise here. Ha! Dafu touched his belt when he saw it, and a burst of smoke erupted from it. He turned into a purple giant holding a knife, and he attacked the huge rock with him. Boom! The big island landed and hit the toast island. With a loud noise, the sea opened a huge shock wave and spread to the surroundings, like a tsunami, rushing towards the surroundings. As the tsunami gradually decreased, the turbulent sea gradually stabilized. The original position of Toast Island was replaced by a larger rock. And near the big rocks, the island fragments of Toast Island are so scattered. Perhaps over time, these fragments will become reefs near the island and exist as a natural landing protection. But that is later. Hoon word. Luo Ye lifted his palm slightly, and the huge island immediately rose from the sea, with the broken island fragments rising up high, and hidden into the sky again. Boom. Immediately afterwards, Luo Ye burst into the air with a wave of air, and flew straight to Cake Island. It's just an island, not worthy of his attention. His goal is not this island either. Not long after Luo Ye left, a few heads suddenly appeared on the sea. That is the pirate who was still alive. 210. As early as when the huge island fell, they saw that the situation was not good, and they jumped into the sea one by one. It's just that there are so many people on the island. Hey, I found Lord Irving. Another human head popped out of the sea, and he held a fainted Owen with bruises in one hand, and shouted. Use this. A pirate found a large sampan floating on the sea, swam over, and pushed the sampan towards the pirate. The latter hurriedly took it, put Owen's upper body on the sampan, and then climbed up. Then put Owen up with the sampan pushing pirate. Are you still alive? The pirate in the water asked worriedly. The pirate sniffed with his hands, only feeling extremely weak, and then pressed his hands between Owen's chest and abdomen. Puff. Cough cough cough. After a period of pressing, Owen opened his mouth and spewed a puddle of water, coughed a few more times, and his breathing became larger. Still alive. The pirate breathed a sigh of relief. Hey, Master Dafu has been found here. Suddenly, several pirates emerged from the water and shouted loudly. Cake Island. Brother Katakuri, he's so handsome. On the island, inside the palace where Big Mom lives. A cute-looking girl wearing a fat white dotted red Madara tutu, floating in the air admiringly looked at the Katakuri who came by. Oh, it's Flamp. Katakuri, who was wearing a scarf, glanced at her and said. The girl looks petite, but she is not short. She is nearly 1.7 meters tall and can float. It is the balloon device on her clothes. This thing was obtained by her mother when she was destroying other countries. Daughter. Charlotte Flamper, the 36th daughter of Charlotte Linlin. Also the most popular girl in the family is the Honey Minister of Toto Land, who is based in Honey Island. Flamp, you're not in Honey Island, what are you doing here? Katakuri asked. Hee, the quality of this year's honey is particularly good, please report to my mother. Flampy said with a grin. Be careful, Katakuri thought for a while, and said, don't arouse mother's appetite. I just had a schizophrenia before. I know, I will pay attention. Flamp responded, then lowered his head twistedly, and looked up at Katakuri from time to time, and finally said, Brother Katakuri, I will have no time to taste the special honey on my island. Katakuri shook his head, I don't like honey, you just. Suddenly, he was taken aback for a moment, his eyes widened for a moment, and a flash of red light quickly diverged from his pupils. In my mind, there is an inexplicable picture. On the screen, the palace suddenly collapsed, and a huge rock surface emerged from the top of the palace, and the huge rock fell towards them. This is. Katakuri reacted and hugged Flamp directly. Brother Katakuri. At this moment, Franpei's heart was about to melt. But Katakuri, who hugged Flamp, turned around and ran towards the corridor very quickly. Mother. Katakuri shouted loudly. Okay. The door deep in the corridor was not closed yet. Katakuri's voice came in, and Charlotte Linlin raised her head when she was lying there, and saw Katakuri running and yelling. Mom, be careful, something is coming. Quote. Boom. As soon as his words fell, the sky outside the window suddenly became dark, and the huge rock surface caught Katakuri's eyes from the window. At the moment he met his eyes, the dome of the palace was crushed, and the same rock surface appeared above. Outside the palace, whether it was Homits or the pirates, they stared blankly at the huge island that suddenly descended from above, which was bigger than Cake Island. What is this? The guarding force of Cake Island is the Biscuit Soldier, and at this moment, in a Biscuit Soldier, a purple-haired man with two drooping pigtails broke out of the biscuit directly, looking at the sinking island in surprise. This thing is almost a thin line from them. Soon, it will be, it hits it right away. The island has fallen. In the sky, Luo Ye pressed his hand, bit his cigar, stared at the crushed palace, and said lightly, sink for lousy. Weo. At this moment, there was a loud shout from below the palace, and the falling island was pushed up by a shock. It moved away from the Cake Island and reached high altitude again. A transparent shock wave penetrated directly from the bottom of the island. The center of the island exploded. Bang! The island shattered into countless pieces at this moment, like a meteorite rain, falling back towards the Cake Island. Bang bang bang! The building of Cake Island was smashed to pieces at this moment, and a large number of biscuit soldiers were smashed to pieces under the impact of the meteorite. Among the buildings, the huge palace was not spared either. It was blown away by a group of meteorite showers and smashed into ruins. In the ruins, a huge figure appeared, a huge figure more than 8 meters tall, holding a long knife with a hat hilt in his hand, and staring at the person above. Monkey D. Luo Ye. Chapter 174. Advertise here. A huge figure in a dress, holding a long knife, glared at people in the sky among the surrounding debris. This is the first time Luo Ye has seen a big mom. He is nearly 9 meters tall and has a large body. He is wearing a pink dress and a turban on his pink hair. The original captain's cap is now turned into a long hand in his hand. Knife. Very swollen and very powerful. Luo Ye, you kid, you ruin my Cake Island. The shattered island made Cake Island a mess. Seeing this scene, Charlotte Linlin pointed Luo Ye with a long knife and said angrily. What? Luo Ye gritted his teeth and said, what are you doing because your son shot my woman first? Can't Lousy ask you to settle the bill? What? Charlotte Linlin was stunned, reacted for a while, and smiled. Well, that's the case, so you came here and asked me to settle the account. Really? If not, Luo Ye pressed the palm of his hand, and the sky was blocked again. A large number of stone pillars covered the sky, forming a stone curtain, shooting straight towards Charlotte Linlin. Among the ruins of the palace underneath, Katakuri holding Flamp was shocked when he saw this scene. Brother Katakuri, it's terrible. Flamp took the opportunity to bury Katakuri's chest, and the exposed profile showed an exaggerated arc, like an idiot. That's Monkey D. Luo Ye. Killed Leadfield and Golden Lion, and the man with the highest bounty. Katakuri frowned. But soon, his brows stretched out. It's okay, Flamp, Mom will take care of it. Napoleon. Seeing a large number of stone curtains in the sky, Charlotte Linlin squeezed the long knife in her hand, stretch it out. Yes, Mom. The long knife in her hand had obviously lengthened a lot, and the woman was holding it with both hands and swiping it up at Luo Ye vigorously. Weo. A strong shock wave rushed straight to Luo Ye. As for the stone curtains that came down, she didn't pay attention to it at all. Slash wave. At the moment when the shock wave appeared, Luo Ye drew out the 1,000 blades of the magic knife, wrapped black energy on the blade, and swung it from top to bottom. Hockey separated from the blade and turned into a black-red slash, which was incompatible with that country, collides. Boom. A huge wave of air exploded in the air, and a circle of shock waves blasted away. At this time, Luo Ye flashed to the side, and saw a shock wave shot out from around him. Hey, is it a little bit worse? He waved the power of slash wave casually, and he was almost away from Weo. After all, it is the triumphant skill of the giants, and it still has merits. Just as Luo Ye dodged the remaining prestige, his aerial strike also attacked Charlotte Linlin. Bang bang bang. It's just that under that fat body, no matter how sharp the stone pillar is, it will be bounced off as soon as it touches. Under that body, ordinary weapon strikes are useless at all. Well, it's useless. Charlotte Linlin laughed. Is it a steel balloon? Luo Ye narrowed his eyes and raised his hand. The stone pillars that continued to shoot stopped and rose together with the stone pillars scattered on the ground. He retracted the knife into its sheath, his head lowered, holding the handle of the knife and said coldly, then try this. Night Thousand Slice Valley. Swipe it. After Luo Ye swiped a large number of chaotic black and red slashes, they scattered towards Charlotte Linlin. This slash caused Charlotte Linlin's face to change slightly. She held the knife in both hands, and a touch of armament hockey flooded the blade. With a huge impact, she clenched and waved forward. Click. The air seemed to shatter at this moment, and the countless black and red slashes broke off like broken glass at this moment and disappeared into the air. Shiki, Charlotte Linlin, who was rushed back several tens of meters by the shock wave, looked at Luo Ye and said, "Well, have you heard that you killed that guy recently? Did you get the lion fruit? By the way, you kid had been fighting with Garp in this new world all the time." Quote. Shiki. Hearing her words, Katakuli was stunned and turned to look at Luo Ye. Shiki, that is the name of the legendary great pirate, Golden Lion. It's the person who used to be in the same boat with my mother. Was Shiki's trick just now? It was really scary. So, is this ability that can lift islands and stone pillars into the sky is also a fruit ability, and there are also the moves of the big pirate. In other words, did this guy get the fruit when he killed the Golden Lion? And my mother even knew him, why didn't I meet him when I was a kid? Then why is his wanted order suddenly appearing around the world? Obviously, the man's previous deeds cannot be investigated at all. What is the world government hiding? And the appearance of this man now is just for our people to deal with his women. The point is, when did we shoot his woman? Damn it, Katakuri said. This man is too strong, and I am not an opponent. Even if there is a mother, this island. For things like battle, the weak are okay, and the battles of the strong can change the terrain. 0. Look for flowers. Including himself, it is really easy to fight and change the terrain. Not to mention the monster levels like Mom and Luo Ye. If there is a fight here, Cake Island will probably be over. It's impossible for Mother to be able to guard this island all the time, just relying on this guy's hand that fell from the sky just now. As long as there is a gap, the Cake Island will be destroyed sooner or later. And that degree, Katakuri cannot resist. Only someone like my mother can completely destroy the big island. And it's still, Wio. The trick of the giants. Now, it's a little troublesome. Katakuri sweated from his forehead. Old lady, did you find out now? Luo Ye sighed, and the magic sword Thousand Blade pointed at Charlotte Linlin. What your son has done, he didn't talk about it today. There is no end to this. Naturally, he would not throw away all the islands he picked up like Katakuri thought. It's useless to ruin the Cake Island. And although he is angry, he still has basic sanity. He remembered that this old woman could fly. The cloud and the sun have not yet appeared. He is not like that skull, relying on the fruit ability to possess the same characteristics as slashing souls. The Cake Island is smashed, then this old lady is going crazy. Isn't her plan going to be ridiculed? But to deal with this crazy woman, let her weigh a little bit when she uses her own strategy in the future, it's okay. After all, people in this world are relatively straightforward. Well, I don't know about this, but you think I'm afraid of you. Charlotte Linlin opened her mouth and laughed a few times. After she guessed that Luo Ye might be using lion fruit, she admired the expression in Luo Ye's eyes. That's it, you got everything about Shiki, why didn't you become a pirate? Anyway, I'm wanted by the world government. It's really unambitious. I admire you very much. Come with me. I'll marry your daughter. How about Franpei? Quote. She pointed to Flampu who was in Katakuri's arms, and said, the age is the same, as long as you come over, she will be yours. What's wrong with this? Luo Ye wrinkled a black line on his forehead. The old fellow Whitebeard wants to marry me his daughter, and you will marry me your daughter. Let me be a pirate. I can't do that kind of thing. What? Whitebeard didn't say this. Lousy don't care. I acquiesced that he would marry me his daughter. Righteous. Chapter 175. Advertise here. Marry this man. Flampe had heard her mother's words, and looked at Luo Ye subconsciously. This man seems to be very powerful, and the first reaction to his mother is to marry his daughter, which is certainly not bad. It looks good and looks cool. Although it's not as cool as Katakuri, if you really want to. I am willing. Flampe shouted in his heart. In the next instant, Luo Ye's words broke her defense mercilessly. What a joke, it's disgusting. Brother Katakuri, I was abandoned. Flamp buried Katakuri's chest again, and continued to rely on the warm embrace of his most admired brother. Well, did you reject my proposal? Charlotte Linlin laughed loudly and looked at Luo Ye directly, then you go and die, Wio. She clenched the long knife in both hands, and struck out a, Wio, again. The powerful shock wave went straight to Luo Ye, instantly drowning his body. 210 is great, Mom killed him. Flampy said with joy. This is the price of rejecting me. Mom, behind. Suddenly, Katakuri yelled. From behind Charlotte Linlin, a figure rose rapidly, and saw a black glow, appearing like a moonlight, and went straight to the back of her neck. Afterimages, moonlight, instantly cut and draw a knife. Boom. Charlotte Linlin rolled up her armed collar with her other hand, then leaned back and blocked Luo Ye's attack with her arm. The black knife exchanged with the arm, making a muffled noise, and violent sparks erupted in the knife and arm. Well, the speed is good. Charlotte Linlin laughed twice, her eyes opened and her arms swung forward. Luo Ye felt a great resilience and bounced his knife straight away, flying back for a while with his body. The Emperor's sword. After he bounced Luo Ye, only a shallow scar was left on his arm. Charlotte Linlin held Napoleon with both hands again and slammed it with a violent blow. Broken blade. Whoosh. With this knife, he still saw an afterimage, and saw that afterimage flashed around several times, quickly returning to its previous position in the air. Predict future. Luo Ye glanced at Katakuri. It's really troublesome. Luo Ye raised the magic knife with 1,000 blades upright, and stood it on top of his head, aiming at the sky, but can you predict it like this? A hurdle. The sky suddenly became overcast, and big raindrops fell from the sky. Taking advantage of the two troublesome homets hasn't arrived yet, it's better to start first. Well, it seems to be very troublesome rain. Charlotte Linlin laughed, but, it's useless. Mother. Boom. The sea area near Cake Island suddenly rolled up a big wave, standing upright like a high wall in the sky, forming a tsunami. In the tsunami, there was an anthropomorphic face, directly covering half of the Cake Island, blocking the sky above Charlotte Linlin, allowing raindrops to fall on its body, and then assimilated into it. Homets of the waves. Go. Drown him. Charlotte Linlin pointed to Luo Ye. Yes, Mom. The wave homets stretched forward and pressed towards Luo Ye cover. Seawater. Luo Ye was stunned for a moment, and the magic knife 1,000 blade he was holding swiped down, turning into hundreds of afterimages. Slash wave katakana middle dot chaos. Swipe it. Countless black and red slashes rushed in disorderly, cutting the wave into several sections. The huge wave was separated, turned into a huge water mass, and smashed down. The destructive power of the big water ball falling from high altitude is not low, just a smash. It smashed the still intact dessert house into a smash, and the homets was smashed by the water ball and turned into pieces. Make the Cake Island more messy. It hurts. The waves screamed in pain, but the body shape was still endless because it was connected to the sea area around the coast. The newly cut body expanded to its original shape at this moment and continued to swallow it towards Luo Ye. Break your roots. Luo Ye swiped the slash wave horizontally, slashing straight to the bottom of the body that was connected to the sea. Weo. A huge slash like a boomerang hit the black and red slash, drove the slash wave back, and went straight to Luo Ye. Charlotte Linlin's face is grim. Well, how could I give you a chance? Whispering sound. Luo Ye smacked his lips, clenched the 1,000 blades of the magic knife tightly. With a fierce face, the 1,000 blades of the magic knife swept the emission, and swept away, resisting the prestige. Seeing sparks caused by the friction between the blade and the shock wave, Luo Ye swiped the shock wave to the side with a vigorous blow. After that, he shot the body directly and flew towards Charlotte Linlin. Come on. The big deal will be flooded together. Luo Ye didn't expect that one day he could be attacked by the sea. This sea water, his first reaction was to return it with a hurdle. But when I think about it, the raindrops just now seem to have been assimilated, and the seawater is probably the same, and Homets is already a living body in nature, and the Kimin behind his own wind cannot directly control the living body, so he really wants to drop the seawater. That's nothing. He is the only one who prostitutes others for nothing, and no one else prostitutes him for nothing. Directly. If you don't rush now, it will be even more difficult when the two troublesome Homets come. 0. Hesitate and lose. Lousy be decisive. Call. At the same time as the direct shot passed, Luo Ye's 2 fingers touched the blade, and a red glow appeared. At this time, seeing Luo Ye coming over, Charlotte Linlin's tongue was about to be exposed. She lifted Napoleon high, and the vapor-like white fire emitted from the blade. The symbol of the integration of top-armed colors. Sign. With one knife, Luo Ye slashed straight. Magic knife 1,000 blades. A small part of the 1,000 blade fragments of the magic knife turned into a phantom of the god of war and appeared around Luo Ye's body, allowing Napoleon to slash it through. When the blade slashed on the phantom, causing the phantom to shatter in an instant, but at this moment, Charlotte Linlin's attack was also stopped. At the same time, the fragments hovering around Luo Ye immediately rushed to control Charlotte Linlin. This is. Charlotte Linlin was startled, her eyes widened, her body suddenly stiffened. CC. Black and red electric lights are flooding the magic knife and 1,000 blades. Luo Ye held the knife in both hands, and a black dragon faintly appeared on the 1,000 blades of the magic knife. Luo Ye was bent on one foot, his body was like sliding, and he was about to slide past Charlotte Linlin. 1,000 blows in one instant, instant hell. Boom. Suddenly, a strong mental pressure rushed towards Luo Ye, causing his movements to stagnate for an instant. Looking up, Charlotte Linlin's eyes are pink, Conqueror's hockey bursts out of her body, and the pink scent swept around like a tornado. Wow. Flamp exclaimed, turned his eyes, and fainted in Kata 5.7 Curry's arms. At the same time, the creatures on Cake Island fainted under the influence of Conquerors. Only some of the larger and tyrannical Homets still maintain a standing figure. Mom's Conquerors. Kata Curry pursed her lips, can actually force her to such a degree. At this time, Charlotte Linlin woke up from the paralysis, clenched her fist in the other hand, and smashed Luo Ye on her waist with an armed fist. Luo Ye gritted his teeth, his body rushed away, and Conquerors slashed at Charlotte Linlin's waist and ribs with a knife. The two actions are carried out almost at the same time. Laugh. Boom. As Charlotte Linlin's waist dress was cut, Charlotte Linlin's blood was flying in the air, and her fist hit Luo Ye's body, and Luo Ye was also hit by a huge fist. In the middle, like a cannonball, it fell directly to the ground, arousing a cloud of smoke and dust. Chapter 176. Advertise here. Mom. Kata Curry. Parasparrow rushed over at this time. What's the matter? Why is the battle happening? He was checking homets in the forest of Cake Island before, and then he felt that the sky was dark, and then he saw the huge island fall down, and then he saw his mother's prestige. Along the way, he could see the damage to the Cake Island caused by scattered island fragments. When he reached the place, he happened to see the aroused smoke and dust, as well as the damage of his mother's waist and ribs. Snug caused the trouble. Monkey D. Luo Ye came to the door. Kata Curry said to him. Monkey D. Luo Ye. Parasparrow was taken aback, as the island just released by Monkey D. Luo Ye. Why can he control the island? Isn't he an incompetent? He looked at the smoke and breathed a sigh of relief. It's okay, no one is my mother's opponent. Laugh. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Charlotte Linlin's waist and ribs burst open a wound. The wound was deep but not fatal. A large amount of blood flew out with the wound, which was enough to shock people. What? This time, not only Parasparrow's eyes widened, but Kata Curry's eyes were full of black lines. Mom 09 actually. Dot was injured. Her defensive power, their sons know best, that kind of terrible defense that ignores bullets and cannonballs will actually be cut open by Luo Ye. Okay. Charlotte Linlin brushed the bloodline that came out of her waist indifferently, and sneered. Well, kid. You have 2 hands. Boom. A violent wind swept up in the dust, and exploded with the splash of gravel, revealing Luo Ye's figure. At this moment, his whole body has been painted with a layer of black, the black suit is shining with a metallic feeling, his head is slightly lowered, and his face is expressionless. Luo Ye slowly eliminated the armament hockey attached to the clothes. There was a clear fist mark on the cloak, which was caused by Charlotte Linlin's punch just now. If it weren't for the timely response and fully armed himself, it might not only be that the clothes were a little dirty. Rao is like this. Ha, I just predicted something wrong with the old woman's power, I didn't expect it to be so strong. Luo Ye opened his mouth, took a mouthful of saliva, gritted his teeth and said, you are not bad too, old lady. The power of this punch surpassed Luo Ye's plan for Charlotte Linlin, and Luo Ye was knocked out carelessly, compared with the punch of the old woman. Neither Letterfield nor Golden Lion Shiki can keep up with the strength of the horse. That is, Monkey D. Luo Ye, a man worth 6 billion Baileys. Parasparrow was sweating on his forehead. This man was the first time he saw a real person. It seemed, as if, probably, very strong. The decision he made when he first saw Luo Ye seemed to be a bit wrong. This kind of person. No monster, it's better not to hit his mind, otherwise it will be very troublesome. Well, Charlotte Linlin laughed twice, her expression sullen, holding the knife in both hands and slashing suddenly, on the blade, arousing the white fire-like breath again. Boom. Luo Ye raised his knife to stop it, and the blade also had a red electric glow. Rumbling. The transfer of the blade and the blade caused a huge shock to the ground nearby, making Parasparrow almost unable to stand firm. Well, with a stab, Luo Ye stood there to resist for a while, and after hearing Charlotte Linlin laugh, he swung his arms forward, blowing Luo Ye away. Luo Ye flew into the air and shot forward again, with a straight swing, attacking the old woman's neck. Boom. Boom. The long knife that Napoleon turned into directly collided with the magic knife Thousand Blades, and the white fire and gold electricity mixed together, bursting with a strong light on the ruins of the palace. With each hit, a large amount of debris was rolled up. Laugh. A stone fragment slid across Parasparrow's face, causing him to feel a slight pain. He stretched out his hand and touched his face with his fingers, and there was a trace of bloodline on that finger. Just the aftermath has such a powerful force. The center of the battlefield. Hey, Kata Curry, help mother, otherwise Cake Island will not be able to bear it. Parasparrow called. Can't do it. Kata Curry showed a black line on his forehead, and said dully, at this level, you can't join in at all, and it will only drag your mother. Bang. With another loud noise, Luo Ye dived from the air, fell with a red glow, and struck Charlotte Linlin's Napoleon with a knife. The latter slashed Luo Ye's knife directly with his arms and slashed away. Luo Ye dodged his body, dodged the slash, and then slammed down with a slash. Night slash wave. Weo. Charlotte Linlin grinned and sent out a shock wave, blocking the huge black and red slash. While holding Napoleon's remaining power, he went straight to Luo Ye. Boom. Luo Ye raised a knife and blocked Napoleon. When the blade turned up, he bounced the broken wheel away. The movement of the old woman was also disrupted by Luo Ye's blow. Night slash wave. At the moment it bounced away, Luo Ye swung his knife abruptly, and the black and red slash carried the fragments of the magic knife with 1,000 blades, and brushed straight towards the area of the old woman below. Chi 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 chi. The fragments of the magic knife 1,000 blades were accompanied by emission hockey, which continuously cut Charlotte Linlin's body, and many small wounds appeared on Charlotte Linlin's body. Even in the case of insufficient emission hockey, the fragments can only generate sparks on her body. The battle stopped for a while at this moment. Call. Luo Ye exhaled and adjusted his body shape slightly. Charlotte Linlin's strength is indeed far beyond his expectations. Simply comparing her strength, she and herself are crushed to death. Moreover, this old woman's swordsmanship and slashing are all powerful types. Luo Ye has never fought against such a person, and the meat output is high. Boy, I like you more and more, don't you really think about it? Charlotte Linlin let go, holding Napoleon in one hand, and asked Luo Ye again. Not interested in. Luo Ye shook the magic knife thousand blades, and the fragments flew back to the knife, recombined to form a complete blade, and said coldly, lousy as now, but I'm here to settle the account with you, old lady. Kanyen da. The grin on Charlotte Linlin's face was even more intense. Although I don't want your bounty and celestial dragon status, it's not bad to make the world fear me even more. Coming. Mother. In the sky, a white cloud and a small sun came quickly. That is, Luo Ye's eyes condensed, and his face became a little more serious. 210. Two troublesome things are here. Charlotte Linlin stretched out a hand. Prometheus. Zeus. Yes, Mom. The two Hormies screamed in unison. The little sun suddenly turned into a huge flame and wrapped around Charlotte Linlin's hands, while the white cloud Hormies rushed under her feet and turned into a huge black cloud. Held her up. The warm-up is over, kid. Charlotte Linlin flew straight up, encircling the flame with her left hand, and while ascending, she hit Luo Ye with a punch. A pillar of fire spurted out from the flames, and the huge pillar of fire made the surrounding area bright red, and the sensation of burning heat instantly spread all over Luo Ye's body. Flame, come here. Kun word. Immediately, Luo Ye squeezed his 5 fingers upwards, and the ground of the cake island surged up, and it continued to rise above Luo Ye, forming a huge stone wall that blocked him. Boom. The flame exploded on the stone wall, and the huge impact force dissipated the stone wall in an instant. Luo Ye also took advantage of this opportunity, and his body kept flying upwards. The flame shot directly, rushing past Luo Ye, and turned into the air. For a red meteor. Zeus. Catch up. Charlotte Linlin screamed, holding Napoleon in one hand and flames in the other, and followed by thunderclouds under her feet. In this form, she is almost completely body. This is why Luo Ye only does not want to touch Charlotte Linlin. This thing, with its strong defenses and incredible power, is almost the culmination of Conqueror's Haki, plus a flame and lightning. It is not only troublesome, it is more troublesome than Whitebeard. At least Whitebeard can't fly. Chapter 177. Advertise here. Well, you can't run away. Charlotte Linlin's outstretched tongue slumped along the side of the big mouth as he flew, holding a long knife and running straight up. The speed was not slower than Luo Ye at all. Zeus. Yes, Mom. The thundercloud underneath suddenly magnified, flashing a lot of thunder and lightning, and with a boom, the thunder slammed Luo Ye into the sky. The speed of thunder is not so easy to hide. Cut. The moment the thunder sent out, he had already reached Luo Ye's body, and Luo Ye quickly swung a knife, and a black light flashed out, separating the rushing thunder from the middle, and the thunder quickly ran away from the two ends of the blade. Attack to the directions on both sides of Luo Ye. Slash wave. The moment the blade cut the thunder, Luo Ye snorted softly, Haki separated from the blade, mixed with red slashes and went straight to Charlotte Linlin who was chasing him. Well, Charlotte Linlin slashed the black and red slash. After a stalemate, he slammed it out. She waved her left hand forward, and a ball of flame was reignited, and the thunder cloud under her feet also spewed out a thunder and lightning. The flame was mixed with thunder and formed a pillar of fire and thunder, rushing to the still waving wave at a faster speed. Luo Ye in the knife pose. Li Zi Suzaku. Luo Ye was startled, and a ball of flame immediately surrounded him. When the pillar of fire and thunder attacked his body, it had transformed into a flame bird with spread wings. The pillar of fire and thunder broke through the body of the flame bird, punching a large hole in its chest. I saw the flaming bird chirping and rushing towards Charlotte Linlin directly facing the pillar of fire and thunder, enclosing it, and forming a fire. Immediately afterwards, a figure ran out of the flame bird and appeared behind Charlotte Linlin. What? Charlotte Linlin screamed painfully in the flames, one of her mouths directly roared, and the powerful sound wave made Luo Ye's body tremble. Subconsciously, Luo Ye also burst out Conqueror's Haki, and the Conqueror's Haki of the two collided in the air. There was a horrible black and red lightning. There is a slash in the flame. Charlotte Linlin, who blasted Suzaku and cancelled Conqueror's Haki, panted twice and grinned. Well, kid, your moves are very special. Her dress was even more damaged at this time, and the exposed body showed dense white marks, but it was gradually fading at this moment. Totally useless. Well, it's just this level, it won't work for me. Charlotte Linlin laughed. Yes. Luo Ye stood high in the sky, looking at the small island below, and said lightly, guess why I want to fly so high? Charlotte Linlin looked up, revealing a black line in her eyes. The sky darkened. Luo Ye stretched out the 5 fingers of one hand and pointed it at Charlotte Linlin. That's because the wave of Homits is too annoying. It can't reach this height. Kanzi 3000 flow. From the top of his head, in the sky, turbulent water broke through the clouds and gradually pressed downward. Heaven is on fire. Thundercloud. Charlotte Linlin threw a punch first, and the pillar of fire and thunder attacked Luo Ye again. Kanzi Imperial Palace Sea Roll. In the distant sea, a huge waterspout suddenly stirred up, spiraling down from above, colliding with the pillar of fire and thunder. Boom. The collision of water and fire sparked a huge cloud of water vapor, which completely enveloped the middle of the two. Prometheus. Charlotte Linlin pointed the fist of flame at the place of smoke. Zeus. Yes, Mom. The two Hormies made a sound together, only to see that the flame spewed out a large number of fireballs, and the thundercloud caused the fireball to entangle the thunder and lightning, exposing a large number of thunder and fireballs, and rushed into the smoke. Space. However, at this moment, a voice rang from behind Charlotte Linlin. Luo Ye's figure abruptly rose from behind Charlotte Linlin. The magic sword Qinbian had returned to the scabbard. I saw him put on the right posture, his palms opened, aiming at the hilt, eyes staring in front of him. Old woman. Cut. Brush. The handle of the knife was held, the blade was pulled out, and three red blades burst directly, blocking any direction of Charlotte Linlin's dodge, and slashing in the past. The space also cracked with the slash. Charlotte Linlin's eyes turned back, just about to strike back. Suddenly two huge waterspouts burst out of the smoke, one hit her head and the other hit her hand with flames. Boom. The huge water momentum shocked Charlotte Linlin's figure, and was covered with water and stagnated there. Mom, be careful, Prometheus, who flew away from her arm, yelled. Three slashing blows were delivered at this moment, one brilliance aimed at Charlotte Linlin's neck, one brushing to the chest, and another rushing from the side. Okay. Charlotte Linlin stared and raised her arms. When Napoleon's blade blocked the slash to the neck. Chi. But at the waist and chest, two blood rushed out at this time, and two deep wounds appeared on Charlotte Linlin's body. Boy, Charlotte Linlin's face became even more savage as she was in pain, and she slashed it over. Call. It's just this cut, it's just an afterimage. Luo Ye's figure flashed into the air, curling his lips. When will I fight you head on? Even when he was hit by two Cs, he was still so powerful, this kind of monster. I am afraid that it will not take a day or two to completely hack him to death. But it's over. Pressing Luo Ye's palm down, the attracted sea water has already broken through the clouds and formed a huge sea area. At this time, he has reached Luo Ye's side. With his palm pressing, the whole cover is pressed down. The force of the sea, like the falling of the sky, made everything around him dark. You go to lousy Shanghai, old lady. Luo Ye grinned slyly. Hey, what is that? On Cake Island, Parasparrow opened his mouth wide, staring at the seawater that landed in the uppermost sky. Can human power be able to achieve this level? It's obvious. Kata Curry stared at the sky in a cold sweat, and said, that is a real monster, mother. Mother, Prometheus exclaimed together with the thundercloud below him. What? Charlotte Linlin did not look at the seawater that was pressed down by the cover at all, and randomly wiped the bloodline with the huge wound on her chest and waist, looked at her hand, and laughed idiotically. How many years have I not suffered so much? It's hurt. Well, Prometheus. Yes, Mom. The flame ball seemed to burst even more, and Charlotte Linlin stretched out his arm, and the flame rushed up, clinging to her hand along the arm, and kept wrapping around her hair, finally enclosing the hair, forming a burning flame. Of the hair. Napoleon. She set the long knife on fire, and the flame enveloped the blade, and the face on the blade looked more hideous, and the thundercloud under her feet also flew out of lightning at this moment, entangled on the blade. Seawater. Charlotte Linlin stared at the huge sea area that was pressing over, holding Napoleon tightly with both hands. The white fire air appeared again, facing the sea above, flew directly up, and slashed it with one blow. Ha ha ha. Well, the burst of laughter swayed under the sea water, and the shocking sea water was trembling. At the top, Luo Ye stared at the sea below, and clenched Chushui in his hand. The Emperor's sword. Under the sea, a turbulent sound came. Ba Lai Wio. Boom. The sea water was cut in half like tofu from the center. Then Luo Ye saw a flame that was comparable to the huge seawater rushing straight up, and Luo Ye avoided the flame just a little bit sideways. Cut. It really is not so easy. The burst flame mixed with thunder instantly expanded to the surroundings, turning the sky directly into a fiery red color, illuminating the darkness brought by his sea cover pressure, and letting the islands and sea areas below reappear light. A large amount of water vapor evaporates in the air, almost covering the entire Toto land. In the steam, Charlotte Linlin's head, shoulders and even the entire back were like a flame cloak. Thunderclouds and purple thunders burst out from beneath her feet, wrapping her body upwards. She drooped her tongue, holding a huge long knife with white fire entangled in flames and lightning in both hands, her bloodshot eyes staring straight at Luo Ye. Boy, in that way, it looks like a madman. Luo Ye's waters were completely evaporated. Chapter 178. Advertise here. This old woman has grown up. Seeing this old woman rushing like a madman, Luo Ye gritted her teeth and changed the way of holding the handle of the knife slightly, with a solemn expression on her face. Well, as Charlotte Linlin rushed over, he slashed out, and the slash rushed directly with the momentum of thunder and fire. The thunder fire strikes instantly, and at this moment, Luo Ye almost teleported in the air, turning into an afterimage under the huge blade, and instantly turned to the back of Charlotte Linlin, and at the same time, black light burst from the bottom down. Cut out of brilliance. Boom. A ball of flame shot Luo Ye from Charlotte Linlin's flame cloak. Luo Ye released emission hockey in front of him, and still slashed it up. Boom. The impact of the flame hit Luo Ye's emission hockey, and his attack also slashed Charlotte Linlin's back, leaving a wound. And at the moment when he was about to be touched by the flames, Luo Ye flickered again, and rushed to the side of Charlotte Linlin from the back. This time, he did not approach him rashly. Instead, he threw the magic knife into the sky above her. After sheathing, Virtual hold the handle of the knife. Brush. Rockfall. Black light mixed with red electricity, like a heavy hammer, smashed down towards Charlotte Linlin very quickly. When Charlotte Linlin reacted at this moment, holding Napoleon in both hands and twisting it vigorously, slashing across it. Weo. Boom. In the air, a very strong shock wave 213 waved away. Wow. The sea area near the Cake Island below suddenly sank a piece, and a huge tsunami was rolled up, but the waves would soon be swallowed and stopped by Homets. In the area near the sea, the Cake Island broke apart, leaving a corner of the Cake Island missing. Rumbling. The island shakes. Obviously, the sky is so far away, can the battle still spread to the island? Parasparrow almost didn't fall under the shock, staring at the two small dots in the sky in horror. Hey, Kata Curry, Mom will win, right? Now, he is a little unconfident. I have no idea. Kata Curry opened the mouth and said, Mom will defeat this kind of thing, I don't know. Mom had wiped out the huge airborne sea area, but in his life, he had never seen his mother use such a burst attack. This fighting intensity surpassed what he saw. If that Luo Ye can beat his mother. Katakuri glanced at Flamp, who had fainted in his arms, and then at Parasparrow, his eyes a little complicated. In addition to the ground, the sky was also clearly divided under this impact, like a deep gully. I have said, you are not my opponent. Well, Charlotte Linlin slammed Luo Ye out with his arms. The moment he flew out, Charlotte Linlin turned the blade and swung a knife diagonally. A slash mingled with thunder and fire rushed to the sky Luo Ye swiftly. At this moment, Luo Ye returned the sword into its sheath, and the hole disappeared, turning into a black straight line in the sky. Then you hurt me, a wounded old woman. The black straight line cut off the slash, and Luo Ye appeared at the end of the straight line, holding the magic knife thousand blades again. Is it Ayahido? And, I remember, this speed method. That old fellow Letterfield taught you a lot of things. Charlotte Linlin said, well, it's the son of the marine hero, but did you learn from the pirates? Stop talking nonsense, isn't the use of power sticking to identity? Luo Ye snorted coldly. When you die, your fruit is eaten by marine. Could it be another Big Mom? Saw, who knows, Prometheus. Charlotte Linlin waved his hand suddenly, and the fireball in his hand ran straight up, spreading out on the sky higher than Luo Ye, forming a huge flame cloud. Heaven is on fire. As soon as Luo Ye opened his eyes, he saw numerous giant great fireballs descending indiscriminately among the fire clouds. AOEG micro operation. Damn, the wild goose is pecked by the wild goose all day. Luo Ye cursed secretly, raising the blade, Kun word Jianyu. Wow. The big raindrops chased the fireball and landed. After Luo Ye dodged the fireball several times in a row, the raindrops landed on the fire cloud and extinguished the fire cloud. At the same time, a large number of raindrops fell like sword aura towards Charlotte Linlin, but they were completely evaporated by her flame cloak before they touched her. It doesn't work at all. Sea water, an effective means to deal with the capable, is really no different from ordinary water in the face of certain existences. Frozen. He didn't come to fight for life. Besides, it may not be overwhelming. In case of eating up, Luo Ye doesn't want to follow a madman with his plan. The old woman in front of me has various annotations on the sea, and even said that the weakest of the four emperors. The weakest. Stop joking. At this ceiling level, there is nothing weak or not. At least in Luo Ye's opinion, she is more difficult to deal with than Kaido. The physical body of her body is even stronger than Kaido's defensive power. You must know that she is Paramesha, and she is just a soul fruit that hasn't changed her physique. As for the attack on this old woman, there were only a few wounds. Although it is very deep, it is still a small injury in front of the opponent's size. Although he has not been enlarged, but the top armed color is used. The defense is too strong. No one in the world can defeat a giant hero at the age of 5, at least not in Luo Ye's memory. Charlotte Linlin was the first. She is at the top of her body alone. In addition, at this age, she has all the means of physical combat, plus elemental attacks. It's so annoying. Although fighting monsters must take a long time to prepare, Luo Ye doesn't want to spend time with such monsters, especially Charlotte Linlin. Her esophagus may be weakened in the eyes of others, but for Luo Ye, it is better to hit someone with an IQ than a lunatic. After all, after telling her about her plan, she was not afraid that she would not cooperate. After all, she was also ambitious. Whispering sound. Thinking of this, Luo Ye glanced at his cloak and jacket, which had long been untidy due to the fighting, with the armed color entangled on the clothes. Ha, do you think that the clothes can be protected even with hockey? Isn't it too extravagant? Lousy is happy. Lousy hockey has plenty of it. Boy, hockey has a lot of volume, okay. Charlotte Linlin laughed and shook the long knife hard. Napoleon, stretch it out. Yes, Mom. The long knife in his hand grew longer again at this moment. Charlotte Linlin grinned at Luo Ye. Saw, how long can you stop me? Block. Luo Ye's face was speechless. Lousy will play hard with you. He squeezed the magic knife thousand blades, and a red glow burst out from it. He stretched out a finger at Charlotte Linlin and said, Old lady, against you, one finger is actually enough. Well, don't talk big, kid. Charlotte Linlin said grimly. If you can beat me with one finger, you should try it. Fantastic. lousy newly developed, Dawangqiangtianji. Luo Ye pressed down heavily. The sky was gloomy again. In the sky, a huge rock that could cover the entire area of Toto land pierced through the clouds. Under high-speed landing, its surface is even covered with a layer of red air velocity. That is a huge finger. Lousy also opened up to show you. Chapter 179. Advertise here. A big finger covering all areas of Toto land. After this thing broke through the clouds, everyone in Toto land looked up and saw the scene where a comet collided. Somewhere on the Cake Island, Cracker with 2 purple braids trembled all over, sweating profusely as he watched what was falling from the sky. What is this? Discourses like this are played out one by one in the whole area of Toto land. Perori. Parasparrow stared blankly at the top, showing his mouth addiction, his long tongue drooped unconsciously, and sweaty syrup rolled down his body. There is no way for him to talk about that kind of thing. Toto land. Kata Kuri's eyes were full of black lines, and the whole person stood still. If that thing came down, the entire Toto land would be destroyed. None of them can survive. In front of this huge finger, Charlotte Linlin, who was nearly 9 meters away, was like an ant. She gritted her teeth, watched the finger fall in surprise, and shouted, "Little devil. You can't avoid such an attack, do you want to die together?" How could it be possible? At this moment, the finger had reached the top of Luo Ye's head, and the strong wind pressure made his hair dance wildly. His body continued to go up, only to see a part of the huge finger suddenly opened, just revealing a body that can let him shaped into the cave. The matter that I control, of course let my mind change, you will destroy it with Toto land, old lady. After saying this, Luo Ye leaned back and blended into his fingers. Under the sky, only the finger that could penetrate the sky and the earth fell straight down. Due to the low pressure from the fingers, the sea began to tremble, and the nearby islands were shaking. The houses on the island collapsed one after another under the shaking. This kind of thing. Charlotte Linlin looked up at the lowered fingers, shaking all over, this kind of thing. Her face was even more hideous, and the purple thunder and the red fire burned more explosively on Napoleon. Don't want to destroy my kingdom. Charlotte Linlin's eyes burst into pink, and with the roar, conquerors came out with sound waves. At this moment, the air was distorted under her scream, and the sky covered by her fingers was full of muffled thunder. Under this conquerors, the finger that landed stopped for a moment. The emperor's sword. At this time, Napoleon was obviously longer under the flames, and the thunder and fire on the blade became more and more intense. Ba Lai, Weo. Charlotte Linlin raised Napoleon, faced the huge finger, and slashed it. Don't underestimate me. Flame, lightning, slash, hockey. Everything mixed together, slashed, turning the dark sky into a mixture of red and white at this moment, and the light illuminates the entire Toto land. Boom. When the knife was cut, the shock wave directly hit the center of the finger, directly opening a deep depression in the finger. This shock wave swayed around, and also turned the stones around the depression into powder, and swayed to the edge of the index finger, while the more edge rocks collapsed and flew away under the shock of the shock wave, turning into stone rain and scattered on the sea. Click it. The index finger made of rock under this knife continuously collapsed and flew away, and the index finger that hit the world and the earth was constantly being wiped away under the light of this knife. As this mother, Parasparrow felt the air tremble, he swallowed dryly, and said in surprise, "Mom, is that strong?" He is the eldest son, but he has never seen his mother use such power. The evaporating sea water just now is beyond his understanding, and now this trick is even beyond his understanding. But Kata Kuri, his eyes are even more gloomy. Powerful. It's too strong to be added. He has never seen such an attacking power from his mother. This is so powerful that I dare not resist at all. Oh, between the world and the earth, only Charlotte Linlin laughed like a madman. In the flames and thunder and lightning, her smile no longer had any silly taste, but was as hideous as a hag. This is the 4 emperors. This is the existence standing at the apex of the ceiling of the world. The power of a knife, even the power similar to a comet can be worn away. Under Charlotte Linlin's blade, the index finger that had been close to him continued to melt away, and the dust formed by the rock was blown away by the shock wave, and a black rain rained across the entire area of Toto land. That is the powder of the rock. Ah, it's going to be rebuilt. Parasparrow looked at the dust falling around, and said with a headache, "These things, if mixed with stones, can't be eaten." The scope of this fall, but the entire Toto land area, after this fight, there are too many places to be rebuilt. 0. Look for flowers. Now, he hates the person who provoked Luo Ye very much. You said it was okay to provoke the monster to do anything. If there weren't for this, it wouldn't be to such an extent at all. It's a miscalculation. Well, the laughter in the sky continues. The huge index finger has been consumed halfway under this knife. Correspondingly, the power of Charlotte Linlin's attack is gradually shrinking, and it is not as powerful as before. Kata Kuri discovered this. Mom's attack has been reduced. Mom will win. With such strength, no one will be her opponent, isn't it, Kata Kuri? Parasparrow was a little relieved at this time. Although Toto land paid the price, the troublesome Luo Ye died, and the world will still know the power of the Big Mom pirate group. There is no doubt about this. Kata coolly said, Mom is the strongest, that guy won't be Mom. Mom. He opened his pupils, as if he had seen something unbelievable, and shouted at the sky, hurry up and get away, mother. Click it. The rock continued to collapse, and at the moment when Charlotte Linlin's attack power declined, a figure suddenly appeared on the surface of the rock she had cut. I saw Luo Ye standing at the mouth of a cave, holding a knife in one hand and holding it horizontally, while the other hand had been wiped on the tip of the knife, making the blade glow red. He squinted his eyes and grinned at her. Yo. The flaw is a bit big. You. Charlotte Linlin's eyes widened. Call. In this shock wave, a breeze suddenly blew away, blowing towards Charlotte Linlin. Luo Ye's body disappeared at the entrance of the cave under the wind, and appeared behind Charlotte Linlin. At this moment, the space seems to be still. Cough. Luo Ye raised the corner of his mouth slightly, but did not reduce the movement of his hands, slowly pulling Chushui into the sheath. Slash with a single knife. God's death is hard to eliminate. Click. The last cut of the blade, into the sheath. Laugh. Behind him, the blood-red color almost filled Luo Ye's back. Between Charlotte Linlin's shoulder and neck, a huge incision appeared, and blood continuously poured out from there like a fountain. Righteous. Chapter 180. Advertise here. The blood spewed and dripped down from the air. He was nearly 9 meters tall, and of course the amount of blood spewed out was huge. Parasparrow felt sticky on his face, and when he wiped it with his hand, he saw a trace of blood red appearing in his palm. Mother. He was shaking all over, and his lips and long tongue were shaking. Mom is injured. The mother, who had never been injured, after meeting this man, was not only defensive, but also the amount of bleeding. Ah. In the air, Charlotte Linlin stood on the Zeus black cloud with her neck blank, her hands hanging down weakly, her head raised, her eyes turned white. Mother, Prometheus, Zeus, and Napoleon were all startled together. It's not over. With a smile at the corner of Luo Ye's mouth, he quickly turned around, bent with one leg, and the magic knife Shinbin was out of its sheath again. When Charlotte Linlin fell, he invaded the past with an incapable ghost state. Don't want to get close to Mom. Prometheus and Zeus yelled together. One flew out from the head and turned into a huge fireball. It blocked it and sprayed out a flame. The black cloud burst out with a large amount of thunder and lightning. To Luo Ye. The word Shuan, the wind binds the scorpion. Luo Ye snorted softly, and the air in front of him twisted away, instantly blocking the rushing flames. However, this can only block a moment. Homits of this level, his ability has not been completely unraveled. But, bang, the index finger of the sky had already been pressed down at this moment. I ran into Charlotte Linlin, whose eyes turned white, pressing her body and approaching Luo Ye. Charlotte Linlin's sudden movement directly knocked away the great fireball formed by Prometheus, forcing its power to become smaller. Although there was still flames, Luo Ye no longer cared. Full of armed color, he had already rushed into the fireball at this time, rushed directly out of the fireball, and smashed Conqueror's hockey at Charlotte Linlin. 1,000 blows in one instant, profound meaning shun. Okay. At this moment, the old woman's eyes had pupils again, she snorted, squeezed Napoleon, sparked a white fire, and slashed towards Luo Ye. Brush. With a slash, a deep gully appeared in the sea below, while Luo Ye kept the figure slashing forward, which faded away like ripples. Afterimage. Boom. Above the rocky index finger, a muffled thunder blast suddenly exploded. The rock index finger turned yellow, and a huge black dragon instantly lingered on the index finger and shook downward. I saw Luo Ye appearing beside Charlotte Linlin, the magic knife Thousand Blades was already in his hand, and the black dragon sprinted fiercely, surrounding the blade. With Luo Ye swinging the knife, from bottom to top, a black and red brilliance cut across Charlotte Linlin's other shoulder and neck. Black dragon. Laugh. The blood spring spurted out and splashed on Luo Ye's face. The blood-stained face, with red light in his eyes, looked hideous. Monkey D. Charlotte Linlin was in pain, and a few words came out from between her teeth. The palm under the shoulder that was chopped off suddenly clenched her fist, carrying a white fire, at the moment Luo Ye was hit by the knife. He smashed it with a punch. Luo Ye. Bang. The huge fist almost hit Luo Ye's entire upper body. A shock wave broke out at the place where the fist hit. Luo Ye's right hand blocked a punch from the big mom, but his body couldn't be restrained by the powerful force. Fly back. Tisk. The word kun. Luo Ye felt the force felt on his arm, gritted his teeth, and the moment his body flew to the rock opened a depression and wrapped him in. What? Charlotte Linlin, who was attacked twice, also spouted a burst of blood. But the arm still clenched Napoleon unaffected, and the red-pink color burst into his eyes. The moment Luo Ye was shot flying, he was slashed in the past. Ba Lai Weo. Bang. Click it. Napoleon slashed on the forefinger of the rock that was pressing her down, and the shock wave that was brought up instantly reopened on the surface of the rock in front of her, and went deep into it. With a series of loud noises, the index finger, which had been consumed more than half before, was directly swept in half by the shock wave, the sky above the index finger. Under this knife, it plunged in like a rewind, revealing a seam in the sky. After the blow, Charlotte Linlin shook a little on the dark cloud. She opened her mouth and gasped for a few times, then looked up. But, where is the figure of damn it Luo Ye? At this time, she discovered one thing. The cracked rock index finger had gradually shrunk upward when Charlotte Linlin attacked. At this time, when she noticed, more than half of the rock index finger had already retracted into the cloud layer, and accelerated the speed, quickly shrinking into the cloud layer 0. After just looking at it for a moment, the rock index finger was basically closed, and Luo Ye was not under the sky at all. Ran. Charlotte Linlin subconsciously wants to open up her sight, but she is now in an angry state and is not sensible. The 2 huge wounds have already made her completely angry. Zeus. Go up for me, Charlotte Linlin roared. I'm going to cut that kid out. Mom, it's too late, and you are injured. You should be treated now. Yes, Mom, if that guy ran away, we shouldn't catch up. Maybe it was Marine's strategy. Zeus and Prometheus, you want to stop Charlotte Linlin's actions. Get me up. Charlotte Linlin screamed like a madman, she can still hear people's words now. In desperation, Zeus could only support her to ascend to the clouds, but after reaching the clouds, there was nothing but blank space around her. Cloudless, very lonely, ran away clean. What? Charlotte Linlin roared, shaking away the clouds below. Monkey D. Luo Ye, you kid, remember it. Above the sky, only her roar was rippling. And above Charlotte Linlin, almost as far as the atmosphere, the rocky index finger that was divided into 2 halves stood there, and beside the index finger, there was a small connected island. The island is connected to the rock index finger, flying at a high speed of 5.7. Seeing the side hole of the rock index finger open, Luo Ye's figure appeared from the inside and jumped directly onto the island. Hey, it's really noisy. Night/wave. Standing on the edge of the island, Luo Ye once again swung hundreds of slashes at the big mom below. Nani. Charlotte Linlin was caught off guard by Luo Ye's slash, and his body fell directly from Zeus. A large amount of blood flowed out from the 2 wounds. After Luo Ye sensed that Charlotte Linlin was picked up by his sons and daughters, Luo Ye roughly sensed the vitality of the other party. After feeling that it had indeed become weaker, Luo Ye nodded. In this state, you have to take care of your injury. If you guys move too fast, my plan can't be completed quickly. Then I have to find Kaido and Shanks trouble. Chapter 181. Advertise here. Oh, I want to go back next, and then I'm looking for a chance to go to Wano-kuni, give that Kaido a beating, let them at least slow down the search for Bullet a little bit, and then wait for the reorganization of Marine to complete. Luo Ye controlled the island flying in the air, muttering constantly in his mouth. In other words, fortunately, I came across these uninhabited islands. There are really many uninhabited islands like New World. Otherwise I can only control the ocean current and flood Trento, but the ocean is really troublesome. But after this fight, only those scenes were enough for them to work for a few months. Quote. Sure enough, let's go find Shanks next. After all, he is also a disabled person. I will take care of this disabled person a lot, hee. At the same time, on an unknown island in New World. Shanks, who was asleep, shuddered suddenly and woke up. Shanks rubbed the goosebumps on his body with his only right hand. For some reason, Shanks felt a strange feeling in his heart beating wildly. What's wrong, Shanks? The awake Ben Beckman drank his cigar and looked at Shanks with a look of fear. He could only see Shanks touching his arm by mistake. I don't know, a feeling suddenly surged in my heart, and I always felt panic, as if something was going to happen, or someone was staring at it, but it shouldn't be. Shanks looked at Ben Beckman dumbfounded. Ben Beckman also fell into a daze after hearing Shanks's words. He carefully figured out Shanks's words. In this world, there are still existences that can make you scared. Don't think about it, it should be because the weather has cooled down. Drink some wine to warm up your body. Well, it's probably my illusion. Above the clouds. Luo Ye flew up with the seawater and messy things. He didn't know how many clouds passed, and finally saw a group of unruly floating islands above. The location of the island, without a trace of beauty, just floated blindly, row by row, dazzling, and there are no counts. These islands were all picked up by Luo Ye on the way. He directly used the word, kun, to look up at the sky. After all, the power of hitting people with islands is really not small. Beside those islands, there is a huge sea area floating alone, and nearby, there are a large number of ships floating in the peninsula. They are all the pirate boats that Luo Ye encountered on the peninsula. Luo Ye also directly used the hurdles to bring the sea water together. The ship lifted off together. After all, the best way to deal with the capable is sea water. As for the pirates on the ship, Luo Ye directly stirred the entire hull of the ship in the sea frantically, and those who survived fell down, and those with the ability drowned directly. Of course, this is not the most islands and boats. You may not know. Generally, we call things that are islands but not big enough, or rocks but not enough in stone, as clumps. At this time, it is this kind of clod that floats the most in the air. Large or small, densely scattered around the island. It's like a garbage station in space, or the debris of a broken planet. Don't mention the mess. Here, Luo Ye doesn't know how high it is from the ground anyway. Anyway, he didn't reach Sky Island. At least Luo Ye didn't see any Sky Island nearby. But further up, Luo Ye can see the White Sea. Luo Ye can clearly perceive the fluctuations caused by the movement of the Sea Kings in the White Sea through observation hockey. Luo Ye used Fenghukaman to control the entire garbage dump. No, The entire treasure house began to move forward. Well, the ability of Feng Hukimen really looks like lion fruit when used. The old woman seems to have misunderstood something. I can also use this information gap to make others mistakenly think that I am a capable person. Then beat them all in time. Quote. Luo Ye used Feng Hukimen to move the island and various objects, perceiving the similarities between this ability and lion fruit's ability. Compared to lion fruit, I can do more things. I can control fire and mess up space. I'm not afraid of sea water. Hey, invincible. Boom. Just when Luo Ye was thinking about how to use his ability to shake others' hands. Suddenly, a huge wave of waves rolled up in the outer sea in the sky, and a sea beast the size of 2 ships rushed out of the water, roaring at a pirate ship floating on the sea, and couldn't wait to bite it down. It seems to be very hungry. There are still sea beasts in my place. Luo Ye showed a hint of surprise in his eyes. Speaking of it, when it swept the sea before, it seemed to be sent to the sky without paying attention. Is this sea beast with the sea water? Boom. The sea beast tore the ship in half with one bite. The ship broke apart, fragments of parts flew out, and a rudder flew towards Luo Ye. Snapped. He stretched out his hand to knock off the rudder at random, knocked the rudder far away, and then glanced silently. What do you mean? Does this thing have a fate with me or an enmity with me? I'm not a golden lion, it's not like I have a rudder on my head. It's just right. I don't have to go down to find food. It's quite troublesome to fly down. I won't go down if I can't go down. Luo Ye opened his 5 fingers at the sea beast, and the 213 swords on the land flew all together, stabbing the sea beast into a hedgehog. A few black spears pierced the sea beast's head. The sea beast didn't even have the kung fu to call it. There was no sound. The blood flowed into the sea and mixed together. Luo Ye gripped his 5 fingers, the weapon pierced into the sea beast's meat, and a large number of swords cut the sea beast's body into pieces. Like a conductor, he stretched out a finger and turned, and the chopped pieces of meat were pierced one by the weapon and flew around Luo Ye. Laugh. A nearby tree was uniformly chopped by several knives, turned into wooden blocks, and then flew over. Some wooden blocks formed a small stool in the air, and fell under Luo Ye, and he sat down. Let some pieces of wood fly in front of him. Luo Ye waved his fingers and lit them, the blade of which was inserted into the meat and floated on it, and it was grilled. Hands on. What do I need to be able to do? Instead, he started to do things without him. With a heart move, things are done. Don't be too comfortable. While Luo Ye was roasting meat leisurely, in the white sea above him, a huge body stared down. Done done done. He took the gourd in his hand, took a few sips of wine into his mouth, then shook the gourd, opened his mouth and yelled loudly, making the surrounding air tremble. Lousy. I'm so impatient to live. Chapter 182. Advertise here. I love braised wings. Luo Ye hummed an inexplicable tune and watched the blade of the meat spin on the bonfire, slowly roasting the meat. The meat of the sea beasts actually tastes good when grilled without seasoning, because the meat is of good quality. Sprinkle a little cumin and a little chili powder on it. Oh, it's so fragrant. Smelling the smell of roasted meat, Luo Ye sighed. His cooking skills are not good, but it's okay to bake them. It's not perfect when paired with the barbecue ingredients sent by the system. In the past, when I was practicing, I often roasted small animals that didn't have long eyes and wanted to attack. About there. Seeing the roasted golden skin of the meat, Luo Ye held the knife and was about to deliver the meat to his mouth. At this moment, his seeing, hearing and color sensed that a huge object was falling rapidly in the sky. He looked up and saw a huge black figure. Question mark. Boom. Question mark. The black shadow fell straight in front of Luo Ye, and the powerful shock wave shook him back, and a circle of smoke swept away in an instant. Suddenly, the blades floating around were blown away together, rolling on the ground with the meat a few times, and the bonfire had long been crushed. What is it? Lousy's meat. Luo Ye stood up quickly, looking at the smoke and dust with an ugly expression. Immediately afterwards, his pupils dilated, and a trace of anger flowed out. Belch. The huge figure stood up swayingly, burped alcohol, and looked at the biggest flame ahead with drunken eyes. Fire. He murmured, his expression gradually angered, his right fist clenched, and his fist blasted towards the lion's head. Question mark. Lousy hates flames. Boom. With just one punch, the rocks and bonfires around Luo Ye were blown away by the strong fist wind. Only Luo Ye was not affected at all. Rua. After a punch, the figure yelled at the sky, it's so boring. Can anyone kill me? The loudness of the voice and the strong courage caused another wave of air to blow towards the surroundings. The figure's body is extremely tall and burly, more than 8 meters tall, with black hair and shawls, and a pair of long horns like horned dragons grow on top of its head, and its beard floats like a dragon's whiskers. The strong left arm has a dragon scale tattoo, the upper body is naked, and there is an X-shaped scar under the right abdomen. There is a purple dress hanging on the waist. There are 2 gold chains on the left and right sides of the hem. He is wearing wide pants. It is tied with a white note rope. Luo Ye can't help but recognize such an iconic figure. 4 emperors. Kaido. Question mark. WDNMD. Luo Ye widened his eyes and roared, how come you are here? I'm just King grilling a barbecue in the sky, why does Kaido appear? Change your place when you commit suicide. Question mark quote. Okay. As if he heard the sound, Kaido looked down and his eyes were dim. Hiccup, who are you? As soon as the voice fell, he hit it with a punch. Question mark. Luo Ye was speechless, and quickly dodges. Question mark. Boom. Under his fist, the ground was smashed out of a huge pothole. Under the splash of rubble, a few cheeks against Luo Ye wiped past. Luo Ye not only sighed with the strength of his spread. In terms of strength, this guy should be the biggest I have ever encountered. Oh, dodged. Kaido looked over, shaking his body, and smashed it with another punch. Boom. Luo Ye jumped back and saw Kaido hit a pothole. His remaining power remained undiminished. His two arms were like piledrivers, and he slammed Luo Ye with one punch and one punch. With every punch, there is a big hole in the ground. The newly built island was full of potholes by him at this time. There is no end. Luo Ye jumped and escaped Kaido's punch. He stepped in the air and appeared on Kaido's face in an instant. The magic knife was drawn with 1,000 blades, and Haki was swept away, and he slashed at Kaido's neck. Okay. Kaido was taken aback, and slammed his arm at Luo Ye who was flying over. The huge arm swept his blade, as if he was hit by a fly. Luo Ye hit the ground with his body. Boom. A cloud of smoke rose nearby. It's just that after being beaten, Kaido's figure has reduced a little shaking. He raised his hand and looked at the small print on his arm, waving his arm from the smoke and dust to disperse the smoke. The smoke was blown away, revealing Luo Ye's standing body. At this time, emission Haki flashed on the magic knife 1,000 blades. Question mark. Kaido's eyes diminished a bit, and he looked over, only to discover the black cloak jacket this man was wearing. Kaido tilted his head, wondering, Marine. Kaido, the New World pirate, one of the 4 Sea Emperors, although known as the strongest creature, and invincible one-on-one, but the actual record is very good. Luo Ye doesn't care. But in Luo Ye's perception, this kind of breath, this kind of intensity, and the strength just now. Question mark. This thing is a real monster. I am afraid that apart from myself, it is truly invincible in one-on-one. There are a lot of New World powerhouses walking all over the floor. Just one world conscription can find 2 admiral monsters who do not know where they came from. Luo Ye doesn't think that the monsters in this world are just that. Bug-like fruit ability, powerful physical skills, precise arm shooting. Luo Ye likes to fight. After all, only by fighting each other can you experience the feeling of being alive. But to say what those strong men don't like. Not Whitebeard, the dying Whitebeard was much gentler than when he was young. Question mark. It's not red hair. In East Blue, I was bitten by the king of the sea. I could only beg to escape my life. Every day, I know that there is nothing to be afraid of asking people to save face. Anyway, I am a moderate. Can't fight. But Kaido and Charlotte Linlin. A fighting freak who gets crazy when he gets drunk, gets crazy when he doesn't, and wants to make a big news in his head. Question mark. One is an old lady who is more powerful when she wants to eat when she is hungry. These 2 people are pretty good, but Luo Ye doesn't like them very much when they fight, they are too hard. The point is that both of them can fly. Backquote Rua. Kaido shouted again at this time, staring angrily at Luo Ye, it's pretty strong marine. But why is it black? Interesting, come on, kill lousy. Otherwise, he raised his fist, a purple electric light burst out from his thick arm, and smashed it with a punch. Lousy will kill you. Luo Ye sighed a little, his body flew to a high place extremely fast, and saw Kaido hit with a punch. Question mark. Can I use the most advanced armament Haki when I am drunk? Are you still at the highest level? Question mark. Boom. This fist penetrated the ground, and with a huge bang, the island ground quickly cracked from the fist as the center, and finally the floating sky island that Luo Ye put together shook violently under this blow. The several islands in the center collapsed directly, so that the land-like islands were spliced together and divided into several large pieces. Luo Ye's eyelids are really twitching. I just finished the model. You or him. The word Kun. Luo Ye suddenly clenched a fist. The stone pillars inserted into the ground all flew into the sky, mixed with stones, ships, and steel weapons, and swept the sky densely. I see how resistant you are. Luo Ye gritted his teeth and swung his fist down like a vent. Boom. The things in the sky shot down, like huge lion phantoms, with a curtain of steel, roaring at Kaido's body. Chapter 183. Advertise here. Bang bang bang. Everything hit Kaido's body. From a distance, it looked like a few huge dragon heads biting Kaido and swallowing it. Bang. Suddenly, all the weapons exploded and blown away together with the stone pillars, and flew everywhere clanging. Question mark. Kaido walked out of the smoke, his body no longer swayed, and his eyes became clear. At this time, the drink he was hitting sobered up. Kaido looked at Luo Ye in the air and said, the ability is well used. Did you wake up instead? Question mark. Luo Ye sighed, the magic knife Chinbian in his hand gently played a sword flower. The last trace in his heart that Kaido was a fluke disappeared. This one seems to be quite strong, not so watery, so why is my nephew the first 4 emperors to defeat in the future? When Kaido saw Luo Ye flew away, he clenched his fists and roared wildly. The head was covered with scales, which instantly extended and turned into a dragon head. Click. A huge cloud appeared high in the sky, and several muffled thunders flashed out, and the seawater was blowing wildly under the howling of the violent wind. Kaido's arms turned into dragon claws, and the entire huge body became huge and gradually extended. The lower body jumped up and turned directly into a dragon's tail, and went straight to Luo Ye. Dragon. Qinglong. Named Yuyu fruit Utaman species azure dragon form. Under the thunder and lightning, Kaido turned into a dragon and flew to Luo Ye very fast. The huge body seemed to envelop him. The dragon's head gradually fell, and his ferocious pupils stared at Luo Ye, showing a trace of interest. Nice kid, he looks familiar, do you want to come to work for me and become Laozi's subordinate? Luo looked up at the dragon's eyes and smiled faintly. It's okay to be your father. Slash wave. Luo Ye slapped a slash that mixed with Haki's slash, and instantly hit the green dragon's head. Kaido was hit back by this blow. Taking this opportunity, Luo Ye planned to observe Kaido's abilities. The slash continued on Kaido's chin for a while, and then dissipated, and a cloud of gunpowder appeared on his chin. The slash only made a mark and healed quickly. Boy. Kaido lowered his head. Long Tong stared at Luo Ye in the distance, opening his mouth to gather a cloud of energy. Heat. A huge energy group flew out. Luo Ye felt hot in front of him, and quickly avoided. The energy almost wiped himself past and hit the island underneath. Bang. An island, shattered to pieces by this blow, the entire island, the lion head on the island and the nearby swords, were all evaporated. Luo Ye's completed mainland has a big hole missing. After the dragon sprayed out energy, it curled up in the air and came straight here. As it flew, he was also spraying heat, and several energy balls shot directly towards Luo from his mouth one by one. Yi. Luo Ye moved left and right in the air, avoiding a hot energy group. From time to time, he stretched out his hand and held it. The island floated and turned into dragon heads, slamming towards Kaido in front of him, trying to block Kaido. Attack. However, Kaido's heat only vomited a few more shots, evaporating it. Rumbling. The dark clouds above his head thundered again, and a violent wind descended from the clouds and blew towards Luo Ye's side, making Luo Ye's flying body obviously stagnant. In front of him, a huge energy group shot over. Luo Ye slashed the energy ball with a backhand, and the energy ball hit the blade, leading his body straight down. Boom. Luo Ye's body stopped the retreat with a little force, blocking the energy and no longer retreating. The powerful energy group was resisted by the knife. It wasn't until after feeling the strength that Luo Ye swung a knife against the energy ball, and flew it high in the sky, submerged in the clouds. Boom. There was a muffled noise under the clouds, and then it started to rain, mixed with the squally wind. The sky became obviously more cloudy, and a flash of lightning blew up among the clouds, making the blue dragon in the sky even more terrifying. Question mark. A fish, the ability can still play like this. Luo Ye looked at Kaido in the sky in surprise. The dragon can call the wind and call the rain. This level is really interesting. Question mark. Pop la la la. The phone bug in Kabuto rang suddenly. Luo Ye took out the phone worm and picked it up. Mosomo si. Luo Ye, where are you? The phone worm rang Momosegi's voice. Luo Ye glanced at Kaido and found that the opponent was still accumulating energy, and said, I don't know where it is, it's still fighting. Luo Ye, come back, don't fight Big Mom, what if you get injured? Momosegi's voice is full of worry. She was afraid that I would not be able to beat the old woman. What's the joke? But soon, Luo Ye threw this idea away. Question mark. Now is not the time to care about this. Luo Ye said to the phone worm, it's not Whitebeard, it's Kaido. I'm in the sky now, and I don't know where it is. Anyway, this guy has entangled me, and I'm going to beat him up. The phone worm over there was silent for a while, and then said, we are now heading to the vicinity of Toronto. You can come down and find us when you are back. Call out. Another breath of heat spurted over. Luo Ye squeezed the blade, the red and black slash flew out of the blade and hit the heat. Boom. The air exploded a cloud of smoke and dust, a wave of air was blown away, and the ends of Luo Ye's hair were blown. Okay, I'm a bit noisy here. Luo Ye hung up the phone worm, put it away, and looked at the blue dragon flying in from the smoke. The blue dragon fell on the ground and changed into the shape of Kaido, glaring at himself. Luo Ye put the 1,000 blades of the magic knife into the scabbard and put it in a good position, staring at Kaido. Let me see your strength. This one is different from the golden lion. The guy is old and his strength is affected by the rudder. Although the last one was very domineering, showing a little shadow of the peak. Question mark. But not the peak after all. But this lunatic, at this moment, is the pinnacle of authenticity. There is no way to run. Kaido doesn't care about anything, he can chase himself to the end of the world. I can only think of a way to force it back, just give me a beating. Question mark. Boy, come and kill me. I miss you. You are the one surrounded by marine. Come on, kill me. Kaido glared wide and roared wildly. Luo Ye's figure is a little lower, Haki wraps around and swept away, with a single stroke. Question mark. Night/wave chaos. Question mark. One kill. Hundreds of slashes with Haki slashed towards Kaido indiscriminately, and the gloomy sky lit up for a moment with its light. Kaido's eyes widened, his fists clenched, neither dodge nor avoid, and slammed his fist towards the first slash. Bang! The slash was smashed by his fist. Ah! Kaido's arms almost turned into shadows, and his fists fell on the flying slashes. With one punch, the slashes were eliminated. Hundreds of slashes were shattered under his fist. Until the last slash was smashed by Kaido with a punch, the body disappeared with the step of footsteps, leaving a trace of smoke in place. He appeared on Luo Ye's face. The big one had Luo Ye's whole fist high, and he slammed the hook up and slammed Luo Ye. Boom. The magic sword Thousand Blades blocked Kaido's fist. Luo Ye felt the terrifying force of Kaido, and his body moved backwards involuntarily. The whole person couldn't bear the huge impact, and the body that was hit by the fist moved back. After Kaido punched out, he looked at Luo Ye who was flying in the sky by the impact, his head turned into a dragon's head, and he opened his mouth to exhale a few heat. Luo Ye, who was flying upside down in the air, stabilized his figure with his ability, avoided the two energy clusters, and immediately smashed it with a knife, colliding with the third energy cluster, igniting a cloud of dust. Boom. At this time, Kaido's knees bend slightly, shooting out like a spring, directly hitting Luo Ye. At this time, Luo Ye, who had just finished the chopping action, also wiped the blade with two fingers, emitting a cloud of red glow. One shot. Luo Ye held a knife in both hands, held it above his head, and chopped it off with a single knife. Cut. Chapter 184. Advertise here. The blade slashed down, bringing a gust of wind, conquerors wrapped around the blade, and from the swing of the magic knife Thousand Blades, several red lightning bursts, neighing and rushing towards Kaido, who was impacting. Several lightning bolts struck Kaido. The overlord power brought the lightning sharp and cut Kaido's skin, and the overlord intention penetrated into Kaido's incised skin. Immediately afterwards, like a bean exploding, Kaido aroused the sound of explosion all over, bloodstains appeared on the surface of his body, and blood burst out. Question mark. But he didn't care at all, and the strength of the impact was not reduced at all. At the moment Luo Ye made a move, his entire body hit him and smashed with one punch. Luo Ye's eyes were quick and fast, and the magic knife was thrown horizontally to block Kaido's fist, but the force was too strong to be caught off guard. Luo Ye couldn't stop it at all, so he was crushed by the magic knife with a fist and hit it down. Question mark. Boom. Luo Ye's body was like a cannonball, hitting the ground below, smashing the ground into a deep pit. The impact was not strong, and his body bounced on the ground. Rao Ye was full of armed colors, and Luo Ye, who was unscathed under the huge impact, did not expect Kaido to make such a move. Ah, conquerors! Kaido screamed again after smashing a punch in the air, turning into a blue dragon, exhaling heat from his mouth, and then slammed into Lee Zi Suzaku. Luo Ye, who had just gotten up straight, looked at the energy group that reached him very quickly, and the dragon hurriedly behind him, ran his fingers across the sword, and once again emitted a flame. A violent wind swept up the blade and wrapped Luo Ye with flames. The flames almost turned into entities, forming the appearance of a phoenix. The energy group hit it, causing an explosion to kill the phoenix. A gap was blasted, but it was reclosed by the wind in an instant. A body composed of flame strikes. Kaido's dragon pupil shrank and rushed forward without fear. Suzaku croaked, flapped its wings, and became entangled with Kaido. Entangled by this Suzaku, Kaido's body will hide a few holes every time he hits Suzaku. Kaido howled and bit the Suzaku's body with one bite, but left a few more scars on his mouth. But the Suzaku's body formed by the slash and flames was not very comfortable. When Kaido swiped his claws, and swayed the dragon's tail, his figure would collapse a bit, and then he would be compensated again. In the air, a blue dragon and a red bird, entangled with each other to strike. The dragon roars, and the bird screams loudly. The two huge bodies banged against each other. Question mark. So annoying. Kaido saw that the Suzaku formed by this slash could not be broken, and he opened his mouth directly, resisting the countless slashes from the Suzaku, and a group of energy gathered in his mouth. Question mark. Heat. Boom boom boom. He himself would be affected by bombarding the energy group at such a close distance, but Kaido didn't care at all. A large number of energy groups blasted on Suzaku, and it was because Suzaku could quickly make up for it. But this speed could not keep up with the speed of Kaido's bombardment. Gradually, Suzaku's body began to shrink, and the bombardment began to appear gaps. Kaido's dragon pupil condensed and seized this opportunity, and the dragon claw stretched in, slashing and scratching a small wound on the dragon claw, but at this moment, the Suzaku disappeared. At the claw, there was a knife resting on it. Luo Ye appeared flat in front of Kaido's claws. Question mark. Boom. The green dragon's tail swept across, hitting Luo Ye's body straight, knocking Luo Ye into the air, and backing constantly in the air, but a huge wound appeared on Kaido's tail. Luo Ye stopped the retreat from the air, shook the blood on the blade, felt a faint pain in the waist and ribs that had just been hit, couldn't help but sighed, and looked up at the blue dragon floating in the air. Those wounds were emitting white smoke and healed quickly, except for the wounds that were pierced by conquerors. With such a bold posture, it is no wonder that after Gecko Moria's defeat that year, his mentality collapsed. Had it not been for Luo Ye's lack of mentality, it would have collapsed. This guy is shameless, that's nothing more than a warrior tank. He also has a mage and a nanny. If you have a bad mentality, it will be a ghost if you see this scene. The blue dragon in the air condensed into a human form. Kaido glanced at Luo Ye, and a wave of air burst out from his legs and feet, and the whole person rushed towards him. Night slash wave. Luo Ye sighed slightly, and a huge slash was sent out, and the black-red slash of several kilometers rushed towards Kaido with lightning. However, Kaido was not at all afraid of seeing such a terrifying slash, and saw Kaido wave his hand in the air, first stepped on the flame cloud and rushed over again, and then hit it with a punch. Boom. June 3 Inaraku. Kaido yelled. Conqueror's lightning wrapped around his fist, and the air under the fist was like shattered glass, pieces shattering. Kaido's fists and Luo Ye's slashes collided in the air, and a horrible aura formed between them. Kaido changed his left fist after the power of his right fist weakened, and kept changing his fists to attack. 5 fists cut Luo Ye's slash. The blow is exhausted. But at this time Luo Ye appeared in front of Kaido and slammed Kaido into the ground with a sword. Rumble. The ground cracked another huge gap, and the gap went straight to the bottom of the island. Luo Ye used his sword against Kaido's upper body and hit the ground directly, broke under the island, fell into the air, and was still flying down. 0. Look for flowers. At this height, he really needs to smash him down, whether it's the sea or the ground. Kaido will almost have to suffer an injury, but Luo Ye doesn't want a minor injury like Kaido's that will last a while. Kaido's head was full of blood at this time, and he almost fainted with this swing. He stared at Luo Ye. As his body fell, he saw Luo Ye clenching the 1,000 blades of magic knife tightly, and the blade also rushed out. A black and red thunder light slashed down. Of course, Luo Ye will also be the expression of high-level armed color. Otherwise, when he meets the Golden Lion, he will cut the island to pieces with a single knife. When the magic sword 1,000 blades slashed on Kaido's wrist that Kaido wanted to swing, but that wrist was covered by haki, so that the blade only entered the flesh. Luo Ye knew it would be like this, but what he wanted was the same. Kaido would relax for a moment in defense of his slash. Boom. An island-shaped dragon head hit Kaido's body and flew out against him. Luo Ye kicked Kaido into the air, and there was no time to catch his breath. With a single hand, he quickly controlled the island to attack him. Kun character simulation planetary devastation. Bang bang. The two islands flew around Kaido's body and crashed together. Then, ships, swords, black spears, all sorts of miscellaneous things blasted towards Kaido, and the whole land that had been assembled by Luo Ye was broken up and turned into huge pieces of land and hit Kaido. Body. Gradually, Kaido's body was submerged by these things, and as the islands continued to stack up, his body was no longer visible. The islands Luo Ye picked up before are all exported to Kaido. Question mark. With the last island hitting it, the place in the sky that originally looked like Sky Island disappeared, and replaced by a super huge sphere, lying between the sky and the earth. Luo Ye clenched his 5 fingers to the lion's head, the ball seemed to be firmer, and there was no movement inside. Question mark. But Luo Ye understands that this is only a moment. He now resents that he can't really ninjutsu. Otherwise, at this time there is a real planetary devastation, he will seal the Kaido here, and when the plan is implemented, he will directly take Kaido and hit him with the ball. But think about it, it's impossible. Boom. Soon, the depths of the huge sphere gradually made a noise. Luo Ye raised the magic knife with 1,000 blades horizontally, with 2 fingers and 1 stroke, the red light appeared again. Question mark. Luo Ye's phantom black dragon appeared around her body, staring at the huge round stone that kept making noises. Righteous. Chapter 185. Advertise here. A huge black dragon appeared around him, and then got into Luo Ye's red blade, and Conqueror's haki was flashing lightning. The sky became more gloomy, and the dark clouds faintly turned into a whirlpool. But Luo Ye did not release the knife, but looked at the planetary devastation in front of him. Just kidding, he collected several uninhabited islands and put them together in an area close to a small country. Now it's all wrapped up and tightly closed, even if he is Whitebeard, it can't be destroyed in an instant. Question mark. Kaido has a lot of power and blood, and he bursts out that should not be underestimated, but his AoE is still a bit short. Question mark. As for using Conqueror's haki, it's all just in case. Question mark. What if he just broke out of this planetary devastation? At this time, Luo Ye can slash, maybe Kaido will be scared and run away. Even if Kaido didn't run, Luo Ye would just in case, cut him with a stab and let him stay for a while. This wave is called triple preparation. Boom. Planetary devastation. Shook amidst this noise, shedding several huge rocks and falling from the sky in 2020. Luo Ye can't control it now. Most of Luo Ye's energy is controlled by this huge planetary devastation, and the remaining energy is reserved for manipulating Conqueror's haki entanglement, and can't even control the movement of planetary devastation. There is only so much that Luo Ye can do now. Question mark. If I hadn't developed enough of Fenghu Kimon's ability, I will give you an experience of what is called 8 trigrams array now. Luo Ye was cruel in his heart. Luo Ye could feel the irritability of Kaido in the center. Once Luo Ye slackened slightly, with his ability, he would surely be able to instantly open a hole from the huge rock. The degree of 4 emperors is indeed pervert. He couldn't help but mourn for Gecko Moria again. What courage made him go to Wano Kuni to challenge Kaido? Such a pervert has one thing to say, after all, it is a person standing on the top of the sea. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Boom. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Planetary devastation vibrated again, and the hull that Luo Ye wrapped up on the outside had also fallen off. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Boom. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. At the top of the rock, a gap was cracked. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Luo Ye narrowed his eyes, put the red glowing magic knife thousand blades into the scabbard, and held the hilt tightly. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Bang. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. The cracked crack burst open suddenly, and Kaido's huge figure crawled out of the gap and stood at the top. Question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. It's now. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Luo Ye's figure flashed, disappeared from the place and appeared on top of Kaido's head. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. The magic knife thousand blades was pulled out from Luo Ye Juhei, violently slashed with the ghost of the dragon and conqueror's lightning. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Kaido had just punched a hole, and before he had time to take a closer look, he saw a red glow slipping off. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Boom. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. As the blade fell, a dark cloud of Uzumaki appeared in the sky, and it exploded. Around Kaido, a huge black dragon surrounded him and swept Kaido's body upward with a terrifying power. Question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. This is. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Kaido's pupils shrank, and some purple thunders appeared in his body in a hurry, but Luo Ye slashed it before it was completely covered. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. In the sky, a huge black dragon appeared, following Luo Ye's sword light, falling together. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. The blade slashed, and the yellow dragon fell, bursting out a black-red light, and after the light dissipated, Luo Ye appeared behind Kaido, posing as a half-squatting. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Kaido, unscathed. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Kaido froze for a while, and subconsciously touched his chest. The knife should have hit his chest, but nothing happened. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Kaido looked at the sky again. At this time, the Uzumaki-shaped clouds in the sky had disappeared, and the remaining clouds were only due to his ability. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Just big momentum. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. He turned around and raised his eyebrows. That's it. How powerful Laozi thought it was. Question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. Of course not. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Luo Ye stood up, faced Kaido, and slowly put the magic knife thousand blades into the sheath, and the blade gradually fell into the sheath. He stretched out his hand and pointed at Kaido and said, "Didn't you hear it?" Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Click. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. The last part fell into the scabbard, with Luo Ye's voice. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. The sound of the dragon roaring. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Laugh. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. A large amount of blood spurted from Kaido's chest. The spurt of blood was like a fountain, spilling out, turning the ground in front of him into a bloody ground. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. A huge knife wound, extending from Kaido's shoulder to his abdomen, suddenly appeared on his body. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Kaido's mind has been pierced by the roar of the dragon. Kaido's body shook a few times. He looked at the huge stab wound on his chest in disbelief, then looked at Luo Ye again, and thought of a belt inexplicably. The figure with a wild and unruly smile. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Odin. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Kaido opened his mouth, staggered for a while, and was about to fall to the ground. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Boom. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. At this moment, his legs and feet vigorously chopped the ground under his feet and stepped on a deep hole. Question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. Nice. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Kaido looked at Luo Ye for a while, and suddenly shouted, "Good job. Good job." Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Boom. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. A large number of purple electric lights emerged from his arms, and dragon scales and dragon tails appeared on his body, climbing the rock to his entire body, surrounding his body. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Like a Super Saiyan. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Luo Ye's eyelids twitched. This is transformed. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. He can't do it. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. The wound on Kaido's chest slowly stopped bleeding, but the huge stab wound from the shoulder to the abdomen couldn't be healed. 0. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Luo Ye cut out a knife wound that Kaido couldn't heal. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Kill Lousy. Come and kill Lousy. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Kaido clenched his fists and screamed at the sky. Lousy, I'm so impatient to live a long time ago. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Boom. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. The dark clouds in the sky spontaneously formed Uzumaki, where they stood trembling, and a large number of rubble automatically floated up in the air under this tremor, and then all fell apart. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Crackling. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Luo Ye raised his arm subconsciously to block the gravel. His armed body was cracked and crackled. This kind of breath made his heart tremble inexplicably. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Conquerors. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Now, haven't you been severely chopped? Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Luo Ye sighed, clenched the magic knife thousand blades tightly, and stared at Kaido firmly. At the same time, Conqueror's Haki and Kaido's Conquerors wanted to collide. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Boom. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Kaido's legs bend slightly, impacting like a spring, and his huge fist with the purple thunder light wrapped around it hits him straight. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Boom. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. This punch plunged deep into the ground and smashed the huge planetary devastation into a big crack. Kaido turned his head and shouted at Luo Ye, who flashed into the air, "Come and kill me." Question mark question mark question mark question mark. What big ice is your appointment? I killed you, my plan is still out of play. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Luo Ye couldn't help cursing in his heart. There is a way for you to remove your dragon scales and see if Lousy can kill you alive. Damn it, conquerors can't scare you away even if they entangle you. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. If Kaido doesn't wake up, he chops off his head and kicks him. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. This kind of terrifying vitality is not just for fun. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. How many times has this guy rushed into naval headquarters? How many times has he been caught? 5.7 times. He would die early, and still be alive and kicking like he is now. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Such a person is really pervert. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Boom. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Kaido's head turned into a dragon head, spouting a few hot breaths. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Scatter. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Luo Ye drew out the 1,000 blades of the magic knife. The fragments of the 1,000 blades of the magic knife flew around Luo Ye to form a shield, and those energy groups exploded on the shield. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Boom. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Immediately after, he heard a beating sound. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Luo Ye's figure immediately dodged, and he saw Kaido rushing into the sky, breaking his shield with a punch, but he didn't catch him. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Luo Ye is too lazy to play with him now, and no longer head to head with this guy. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. In terms of pure speed, Kaido is still inferior to him. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. After all, his speed, in this world, no one can keep up except Kizaru. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Luo Ye fell on the ground with a smile on the corner of his mouth. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. I really can't help but beat Kaido to death. Chapter 186. Advertise here. Brush. The blade full of cracks quickly slashed across the dragon scale, bringing up a rain of blood and dragon scale fragments. Ah, kid. The giant fist entangled conquerors collided with the knife that also entangled conquerors. It did not touch but produced a large amount of black and red lightning in the space. Tisk, it's really annoying. Kaido's Luo Ye couldn't recognize it inside. Kaido, who turned into a dragon, stepped on the flame cloud and rushed towards Luo Ye again, ignoring the extra wounds on his body. Come and kill Lousy. Bump, bump, bump. The knives and fists were colliding quickly. Luo Ye and Kaido waved their weapons and fists against each other. However, compared to Kaido's speed, Luo Ye is obviously faster and can easily attack, defend, and counterattack, while Kaido is getting more and more injuries. Rua. Just as Kaido yelled again to increase his attack speed, a lazy voice sounded in this world. Allah, it turned out to be you, Luo Ye. No wonder I felt the horrible atmosphere above the sky collide below. Kuzan stepped on 09 moonwalk and appeared in the sky, watching Luo Ye and Kaido, who were constantly attacking each other. Yeah, Kuzan, it's been a long time. Luo Ye once again flew Kaido fiercely with a knife in both hands, and left a deep wound on Kaido's defensive arms. Kaido looked at Kuzan not far away, but didn't speak, just as Luo Ye didn't attack. Hurry up. Adjusting the breathing rhythm. It didn't take long. By the way, why did you fight Kaido here? Although Kuzan's words are still so lazy, his body and observation haki have locked Kaido, who is normally gasping in the distance, ready to make a righteous beating with Luo Ye at any time. Well, it's a long story. Well, wait a minute, let's go together. After Luo Ye finished speaking to Kuzan, he rushed towards Kaido and shook his left hand against Kaido. Hoon word. The gravel that was smashed by Kaido once again gathered towards Kaido. When Kaido wanted to react and resist Luo Ye's attack, Luo Ye approached Kaido in a hurry. Slash with one sword Black Dragon. The magic sword Thousand Blades carried a black dragon across Kaido's chest, bringing out a lot of blood. What? Kaido was interrupted by this sudden knife. The thoughts in my mind were filled with intense pain. At this time, a large amount of rubble rushed towards Kaido and smashed Kaido in again. Simulation planetary devastation. Your mother is really scary. Kuzan looked at the huge sphere that suddenly appeared in front of his eyes, which was suddenly formed from rubble in front of his eyes. That's it. Ah. Kaido in planetary devastation disregarded his physical injury and forced his strength to break the stone ball that trapped him again. At this moment, Luo Ye's words suddenly drifted into Kaido's ears. Immediately the world will be engaged in the best war based on the eternal pointer of the ultimate island. Save your life until then. The content of Luo Ye's words caught Kaido's attention. Kaido stopped struggling to break away from Luo Ye's shackles for a while, intending to wait for Luo Ye's next words. But after a few minutes, Kaido still didn't get Luo Ye's next conversation, but found that the restraint force around his body had been reduced a lot, and there was almost no feeling of squeezing himself into sauce just now. Rua. Kaido, once again transformed into a giant dragon, broke through Luo Ye's shackles. Realizing that Luo Ye and Kuzan were no longer around, Kaido realized that he had been tricked, and could only yell helplessly. Why didn't you just kill Kaido? Kuzan, who left with Luo Ye, froze the sea under his feet and asked Luo Ye next to him. He didn't quite understand that Luo Ye could solve Kaido directly just now, but it just trapped him. Luo Ye inserted Kabuto and looked at the scenery in the distance. Nothing. To me, a living Kaido is far more meaningful than a dead Kaido. A dead Kaido will make the entire new world more confusing. Huh, what does that mean to you? Kuzan accurately discovered the main point of Luo Ye's words. Kuzan suddenly felt that Luo Ye hadn't shown what Luo Ye did before after being wanted by the world government. Luo Ye, do you still have justice now? Kuzan, what do you think is justice? After hearing Kuzan's question, Luo Ye and Kuzan were walking on the sea while Luo Ye asked Kuzan instead. I don't know, maybe I knew when first was marine, but now I don't know. Regarding Luo Ye's question, Kuzan was visibly stunned before shook his head and said to Luo Ye. Oh, did you even give up your own righteous ideas? Hearing Kuzan's answer, Luo Ye looked back at him with a little surprise. Since the previous justice was wrong, why can't we give up? Kuzan's voice was still very flat, as if he was talking about a very unimportant thing. I don't think Marine's justice is wrong, at least a large part of Marine's justice is correct. Question mark. In response to Kuzan's understatement, Luo Ye shook his head, and then retorted 220. Appreciate further details. Suddenly hearing Luo Ye say this, Kuzan became interested, watching Luo Ye want to hear what he has insights. That's good, there is nothing left or right, then I will tell you about it. Luo Ye didn't talk too much, and directly started to talk to Kuzan about his understanding of marine justice. What marine does is to protect the people on the various islands from the sea pirates. This thing itself is just. After all, before Marine became Marine, he was also an ordinary citizen on each island. Quote. As the saying goes, if you come from the people, you must be responsible for the people's safety. They are supported by their own taxes, and of course they have to do things for the people. Quote. As long as you are willing to protect the people, then Marine is naturally just. This is irrefutable, right? Having said this, Luo Ye looked at Kuzan and nodded when he saw the other party before continuing. However, many Marine executives misunderstood their own goals. They felt that after they became Marine, they would be superior to protect the nobles and help the nobles to oppress the people. In the words of my hometown, this is forgotten. A person who has forgotten his roots, of course, is not worthy to talk about so-called justice. Kuzan continued to nod. Luo Ye smiled and continued. Chapter 187. Advertise here. Luo Ye talked a lot, from what Marine's real responsibilities are to what is happening in Marine now. Anyway, Luo Ye will do whatever he thinks of. But no matter what Luo Ye said, his main idea has never changed. That is, those so-called nobles shouldn't exist at all, and this world doesn't need those who are above ordinary people. People in this world, whether they are aristocrats or ordinary people, are born free and equal, and what they obtain afterwards should be made by themselves with their hands. Question mark. These things are Luo Ye's inner philosophy, and no matter how much Kuzan can listen to, Luo Ye is talking endlessly. After speaking a great talk, Kuzan was obviously lost in thought. Luo Ye is still very satisfied with this. No matter what the other person has come up with based on his own words, as long as he thinks about it, then he will not be wasted just now, at least it will leave a trace in the other's heart. I don't know how long it took. Kuzan recovered from the state just now, looked at his side. Luo Ye, who had already left, shook his head helplessly. He does not deny that the kind of world Luo Ye talked about before made him very yearning, but if you think about it carefully, that kind of world is simply impossible to achieve. Even if the revolutionary army succeeds in their revolution, there is no aristocracy in this world, but there are never fewer people who are rich and powerful. If one group is eliminated, another group will naturally come forward, and it is still impossible for the world to achieve absolute fairness. So Kuzan still disagrees with these concepts of Luo Ye. After all, Kuzan is destined to be unable to fight. Of course, Kuzan will not agree with them. But I have to say that Kuzan also wants to see such a world. If something can be easily achieved, then it is not a so-called dream. Since he is no longer marine, he certainly wants to do what he thinks is right. What Luo Ye did and said, can indeed be said to be correct. Two people are walking on the sea, and Kuzan is still thinking about what Luo Ye said. That kind of concept has broken through his concept, and a new concept is slowly forming in Kuzan's mind. By the way, you will not be. Luo Ye hadn't finished speaking yet. Kuzan and Luo Ye suddenly perceived a lot of auras and drove towards this side through seeing and hearing. There was also the aura that both of them were familiar with, the aura of General Marine Vice Admiral. Then the identities of these people are obvious. Marine. After Luo Ye felt these breaths, he couldn't help but look at Kuzan. After finding that the other person was also looking at him, Luo Ye couldn't help but adjust his eyebrows at Kuzan. Unexpectedly, you, with thick eyebrows and big eyes, would still play like this. So, is it a fake to quit Marine? After Kuzan realized that Luo Ye had begun to doubt himself, he shook his head and said to Luo Ye. I have indeed quit Marine, not what you thought, this time it happened, really. Listening to Kuzan's explanation, Luo Ye didn't say anything. Because in Luo Ye's perception, a strong breath is approaching here quickly. Monkey D. Luo Ye, you actually appeared in this place, then we Marine can only take you back, and Kuzan Admiral. No, you are no longer Admiral. Unexpectedly, you would get mixed up with the wanted criminal Luo Ye. Really are. Before Vice Admiral in the distance had finished speaking, a red light and shadow struck towards the Marine warship with a terrifying aura. What? After Vice Admiral felt the terrifying power of the attack, it was too late to react and could only give an exclamation. Allah. Really? As soon as the voice fell, Kuzan leapt out with a squeaking sound, leaving the cold air to blow away in the wind and leapt into the air. With a sudden wave of the right hand that turned into cold ice, the extremely cold white cold air radiated out and condensed into 4 ice spears in the void in front of Kuzan. Ice cube. 2 thorn spears. 4 ice spears shot at the red light and shadow quickly. The Kuzan ice spear was extremely fast. When Vice Admiral reacted, the ice spear was already approaching, and the red light and shadow were inevitable. 5 times out. Question mark. A red figure flew out and stood in front of the ice spear. There was no extra nonsense, and the man clenched his fist and blasted out. Hada. The red fists were swung across the void, and then there was a bang. This was the sound of air exploding, and even the air could no longer withstand the huge force. Not to mention the cold ice. With a bang, the solid cold ice burst directly under the power of Red Shadow's double fists, turning into countless thumb-sized ice cubes and flying around. This suddenly appeared, and it was Shi Zihao who blocked Kuzan's attack. Glancing at Luo Ye who was watching the show, Shi Zihao focused all his attention on Kuzan, with a smile on his lips. I have waited for 10 years, now Admiral Kuzan. Oh, no, it should be the predecessor Admiral, let us take care of the accounting of the year. Hagi, Shi Zihao, I didn't expect you to escape from the 6th floor of Impel down. Looking at the red figure in front of him, Aokiji's plain tone revealed an unusual dignity. In the Battle of Heaven and Gold that year, he had spent a lot of energy before he had only one trick to catch this guy. I thought I would never see this guy, but I didn't expect to meet again, and I would actually be on this chaotic battlefield. Backquote Vice Admiral Kuzan, no. It should be said that the former Admiral Aokiji, 10 years is really a long time, the world changes so fast, then you also became Admiral of Vice Admiral, and now it is like a bereavement dog being driven by a kainu out of Marine. Shi Zihao clenched his fists tightly and did not hide the murderous aura in his heart in the slightest. Shi Zihao is full of hatred for the guy in front of him who has locked himself in Impel down for 10 years. If I were you, the first thing I would do after escaping from Impel down is to find a place to hide, instead of coming to this place to find me. Kuzan's plain words sounded shin. In the seemingly plain words, there is a sarcasm and contempt for Shi Zihao. This battle will accidentally lose his life at any time. You Shi Zihao should honestly find someone. Hide somewhere. Hey, Kuzan is quite capable of acting. After hearing Kuzan's words, Luo Ye next to him couldn't help but complain. Shi Zihao's mouth curled up slightly, his fists clenched, and murderously said, I escaped from the prison just to find you on a special trip. Aokiji, this 10 years has passed, and we are completely on the battlefield. Let's settle it. Hagi, Shi Zihao, he didn't expect that he was not dead. Looking at Shi Zihao, who was facing Aokiji in the sea, wearing a red suit, Marine in the distance can't help but make a surprised sound. As a guy who also existed at the Overlord level 10 years ago, Shi Zihao's name has been heard a lot, but in the case of the Heavenly Gold, this guy was announced by Marine that he was Fuzu, and even the bounty was withdrawn. Now it seems that he was caught alive by Aokiji and thrown into Impel down. It seems that he escaped Impel down with the Straw Hat Boy. Chapter 188. Advertise here. It seems that the breath of hunting Kuzan rushed over Shi Zihao. Luo Ye looked at the deadlocked two people with his arms folded. Bump. Suddenly, a huge smoke burst out of the sea frozen by Kuzan. Within the smoke produced by the explosion, two figures flew out together. One was Marine Admiral Kuzan, who was no longer wearing the Marine Justice cloak and represented justice. Question mark. The other one is indeed wearing red clothes, coming out of the Golden City to look for Kuzan, the hero Shi Zihao who existed at the level of the maritime hegemon. The two figures stopped their footsteps on the ice, staring at each other closely, and their stretched bodies could launch a terrible offensive at any time. Shi Zihao, who was full of red light, was like a human-shaped soldering iron just taken out of the calciner, exuding a terrifying aura. Since being caught by Aokiji in the Heavenly Gold incident 10 years ago, Shi Zihao has been locked into the sixth layer of Impel Down, the bottom eternal hell. From that time on, freedom, dreams, wine, adventure, all these beautiful things have left Shi Zihao, and the capital of all this is Aokiji. As for Luo Ye, he has been defeated by Luo Ye. 10 years is 220 years, and his entire life is not even a few decades. Shi Zihao was only 30 years old when he was captured on the sixth floor of Impel Down. It can be said that he was at the age of glory in life. Question mark. But during this period of time, it can only be lonely and dark. In a cell of a few square meters, the concept of time has long been lost, and it has passed through these 10 years like a walking dead. In 10 years, one thing has not weakened, but has become stronger over time. That is the hatred of Aokiji. For 10 years, Shi Zihao has accumulated how strong the hatred in his body, even he himself is not clear. Question mark. Asshole Aokiji, when you caught me and put me in the sixth floor of Impel Down, maybe I never thought I could escape. Turning over to stop the rapid retreat, Aokiji's laziness has long been covered with dignity, and even Aokiji has to take it seriously when facing a strong man like Shi Zihao. Question mark. Call. With a light breath, Aokiji calmly said, if this is the case, let me freeze you again. Since you were defeated by me 10 years ago, the result will be the same 10 years later. As soon as Aokiji's voice fell, Shi Zihao's feet were full of cold air, and Shi Zihao's ice was sealed almost instantaneously. The hard ice reflected a faint light, and Shi Zihao, who was frozen, still maintained the posture that he was ready to shoot at that moment. What? So fast? This guy is too rubbish, right? A little marine on the warship in the distance couldn't help but vomit. The ice that had frozen Shi Zihao's body exploded, and Shi Zihao's figure appeared unharmed. At the moment when the ice broke, Kuzan's eyes tightened slightly, and he thought to himself, is it stronger? Question mark. Aokiji, when I stayed on the 10th floor of the prison, I am not static. Staying still, hatred is also a force that inspires people to move forward. Shi Zihao's arms shook, and a stronger aura burst out, and the red light radiating from his whole body quickly changed to orange-yellow. A powerful wave of air radiated from his body and rose to the sky. The mere aftermath of the eruption made the ice surface unbearable under his feet, and cracks spread out under Shi Zihao's feet. Driven by the air wave, within the range of the surrounding air wave, the broken ice flew up from under the feet and rushed straight to the sky. 7th tier eruption. The air wave swept around along the ice, like a powerful shock wave produced by the collision. Many Marine soldiers on the warship had to cross their hands to block them. The body trembling under the impact, let alone fighting, just keep standing and not be blown away, just barely. Question mark quote. Flash. As soon as the voice sounded, Shi Zihao's figure flashed and appeared behind Aokiji. He lifted his right foot and turned into a red streamer and suddenly kicked on Aokiji's body. Bang. Bang. There were two alarms in a row. One was Shi Zihao kicking Aokiji's body into a burst of ice, which was scattered on the ice, and the other was Shi Zihao's speed breaking through a certain limit of the human body, reaching a sound level. Faster speed, the sonic boom produced. Aokiji, didn't that kick just now? Shi Zihao's joyous voice sounded with his arms folded in front of his chest. For 10 years, I don't know how many days and nights, Shi Zihao thought about kicking Aokiji to pieces, and today he finally got what he wanted. On the biggest piece of broken ice, the white ice turned into Aokiji, half squatting on the ground. A severe pain came from behind. Under the frowning brows, even Kuzan's voice became unnatural. The speed is so fast, even the strength has been strengthened. The voice fell, a touch of bloodline was left from the corner of Kuzan's mouth, and Armament Hockey's attack was added to that foot just now. Even if the elementalization was timely, it still suffered a little injury. The hands covered by the ice were pressed towards the ground, and wisps of extremely cold air followed Aokiji's hands and penetrated into the ice. In the next moment, around Aokiji, a series of ice bulges from the surface of the ice. These bulging ice are getting bigger and bigger. Gradually these ices merge with each other, and an ice dragon tens of meters long is visible to the naked eye. The speed appeared on the ice dragon bomb. The ice dragon's body was swaying, and the seemingly huge body, but the speed was extremely fast, and it was close to Shi Zihao in an instant. Without dodge, even if this kind of attack dodges at such a short distance, it is too late. Shi Zihao exhaled deeply, squeezed his fists with both hands, his whole body strength was concentrated on his hands, and the high bulging muscles contained all of them. With explosive power. Question mark. Both fists clenched, powerful power erupted, and a slight muffled sound came out. This was the sound of the air in the fist being pinched. Question mark. If someone watching Aokiji fighting Shi Zihao from a distance at this time, someone's eyes will fall on Shi Zihao, and there will be a distorted blur in his eyes. It's so strong, so far away, you can feel that powerful force, even the surrounding air is distorted, Kuzan exclaimed, without concealing the surprise in his heart. When he moved, Shi Zihao moved, and saw his clenched fists struck each other strangely, and at the moment when the fists were about to touch, his fingers crossed out. Ghost kill, White Tiger. In the void, the air wave rolled, and a vague white giant tiger rushed out along the crossed fingers. The white tiger opened his mouth and screamed, facing the ice dragon. Question mark. A giant white tiger, a giant dragon tens of meters long, has used this ice sheet as a battlefield, as if two legendary beasts revived in the hands of Shi Zihao and Aokiji, causing a shocking collision. Boom. Amidst the astonishing loud noise, only a white wave of air soared into the sky in the center of the collision, huge cracks appeared on the trembling ice surface, and the hard ice shattered. Question mark. The shock wave generated by the collision spreads in all directions at a 360-degree angle at the moment the air wave rises, like a huge storm swept over it. Chapter 189. Advertise here. What? Wherever the impact passed, whether it was the powerful Marine Vice Admiral or the Marine soldiers, they felt a huge force bombarding the body, and then the body lost control and flew out like a broken kite. Fortunately, in the previous battle, Vice Admiral died for fear of being involved in the aftermath of the battle between the two. Most of the Marines were evacuated from this sea. The warships quickly fled and did not cause much casualties. Ice Age. Hada. The fierce shock wave blows away even the ice mist produced by the explosion, and Kuzan and Shi Zihao's figures quickly emerge, but they don't seem to be, well. The blood flowed down Kuzan's forehead, and a clear fist mark appeared on his chest. Although it had been wiped off with his hands, the blood still flowed down from the corner of his mouth. As for Shi Zihao, his entire right arm was frozen by the ice and it spread to his shoulders. If the ice is not treated as soon as possible, the entire arm will be scrapped. Question mark. Kuzan shook his heart and said, "This is the first time I have seen such a powerful physique with Haki attack, a concentrated ultra-high-speed four-fist attack on the opponent, first compressing the air and then spreading it in one breath. Mo shockwave. Ah, this is me too." Luo Ye watched the play happily beside him. Click. The right arm shook, and the ice covered on it collapsed, and the heat generated by the high-speed flow of blood in the body largely prevented the intrusion of cold air. But the cold from the wrist invaded too quickly, and the entire right fist was still wrapped in ice. Kuzan, not only did I become stronger, you also became stronger. Shi Zihao's fighting spirit boiled over again. Ha! Ghost wave. Ice Age. Quote. Kuzan leapt high and avoided Shi Zihao's attack. With a bang, there was a loud noise at the place where he stood before, and a huge explosion sounded. Ice cubes of various sizes flew into the air, and the dust and ice mist from the explosion covered everything below. Kuzan swung his hands, and the two icicles swayed with his arms, exuding extreme cold air and flying into the thick dust. The two icicles are like sharp arrows, bringing a strong hurricane around the sides of the icicles, blowing the smoke away, and within the blown smoke, a red light flashes. Shi Zihao quickly rushed out of the range of ice fog, two icicles hit the ice surface, and the extremely cold air was quickly dissipated by the hurricane. Wherever he passed, even the air was frozen, and there were tiny grains of air. Ice crystals are suspended in the void. The ice spread extremely fast, and he caught up with Shi Zihao who left in an instant. Seeing the cold catching up, Shi Zihao stopped quickly, rubbing his feet against the ice surface, and the force generated formed 2 meters long. Gully. Stopping his footsteps, Shi Zihao did not hesitate, and turned his back on the ice with a punch, and a series of alarms rang out in an instant. Question mark. Under Shi Zihao's seemingly ordinary punch, the hard ice shattered and splashed at a very fast speed. Within a few meters in front of him, all the ice flew up. But these flying ice did not fall. The incoming cold air froze all the flying ice in the void and combined with the abundant moisture in the air to form an ice wall several meters wide. Freezing the ice seemed to exhaust the power of the cold air, and the cold air dissipated into the void before it spread to Shi Zihao's body. Ice two spines. Several bursts of air sounded from the sky above. Shi Zihao was instinctively ready to blast out with a punch to disperse everything, but felt the fist frozen by the ice. Shi Zihao could only dispel this idea immediately, and rolled over to the side, only to avoid the ice spear that pierced the sky above the sky. Question mark. Boom. Boom. The ice spear, which appears to be composed of ice, has extremely terrifying power. It hits the ice surface, and the scene is no less than the bombardment of Marine's huge naval gun, which is powerful. Question mark. Kuzan, you guy, don't fly into the sky to attack from time to time. Give lousy down if you have the ability, and have a one-on-one head-on duel. Shi Zihao was directly angry when he was hit with no backhand strength like this. If he fights head-on, it would be fine, but this style of play is simply helpless in Shi Zihao's view. Although for the real battle of life and death, there is no unscrupulous move, only to use all strength to kill the opponent, even with bite, tear. As long as you can kill the opponent, the real winner will be you. Question mark. The world only cares about the result, as Doflamingo said, because only the winner can judge justice. I thought that my own words had no effect on Kuzan. As Marine Admiral, who is not a strong man who has emerged from countless battles of life and death, how could it be possible to arouse them only by language? 0. Look for flowers. But Kuzan fell straight down from the air, and at the same time his whole body was covered with ice a little bit, and his whole body exuded a whiff of extreme cold. La, let me finally solve this battle. Suddenly, Kuzan moved, moving without warning, his figure flashed, and he swept out towards Shi Zihao who was whispering. The pale cold air turned into a strong wind. A layer of frost enveloped both hands, the palms covered with ice exuded pale white cold air, and when I shook it towards the void, the white cold air radiated along the palms, and the abundant water in the air quickly condensed into a blue ice sword. Under the scorching sun, the blue ice sword reflected a faint cold light, and Kuzan, who was approaching Shi Zihao, waved the sharp sword with his right hand, holding the ice sword tightly and stabbing it straight out. A faint white cold air dissipated from the ice sword. Wherever the cold air passed, the water vapor in the air solidified into small ice crystals, and a white trail emerged in the void on both sides of Kuzan. The ice sword passed by, with bursts of sound of breaking through the air. Shi Zihao's expression suddenly changed, and he turned over and rolled, avoiding Kuzan's attack. But before Shi Zihao stopped, Kuzan flipped the sword in his hand, and the white cold air radiated from his body. In the absolute cold, several ice spears appeared beside Kuzan. Kuzan, you mean fellow. As soon as the voice sounded, Kuzan's sword flew out first, and the sword pierced the sky and flew towards Shi Zihao who was evading. Without much thinking, seeing the ice sword in Kuzan's hand burst out, Shi Zihao's figure dodged, avoiding the ice sword's attack. Question mark quote. Ice cube 2 spears. Kuzan's words suddenly sounded. Immediately after, Shi Zihao, who had just stood firm, felt a sound of breaking through the air, and quickly raised his eyes to see that 4 ice spears had appeared in front of him. The sharp sword shot earlier was actually a fictitious move by Kuzan, forcing Shi Zihao to dodge to the side, but the real killer move was behind, taking advantage of the gap between Shi Zihao's dodge and launching the prepared killer move. And everything was just as Kuzan expected. Shi Zihao realized that it was too late at this time, the ice spear was already approaching, and it was impossible to avoid it completely. Righteous. Chapter 190. Advertise here. With a strong flick of both feet, the explosive force blasted a large hole into the ice surface under the feet, and the fragmented ice splashed, and the air waves generated by the impact spread to the surroundings. Shi Zihao used this reaction force to rapidly increase the speed in a short time. To a terrifying speed. But Kuzan's ice spear was already close to him, his ascending body avoided the bottom 2 ice spears, and the other 2 ran past Shi Zihao's legs. The spear, which seemed to be composed of ice, was extremely sharp. It was only slightly rubbed, and a blood mark the size of a thumb appeared on the calf of both legs. Yin Hong's blood hadn't flowed out, and the cold air attached to the ice spear directly ice-sealed the wounds on Shi Zihao's legs. Ah! Shi Zihao gritted his teeth and made a dull sound like a beast, frowning tightly. Both feet stepped back on the ice surface for several steps, each step falling on the ice surface would have a deep pit full of cracks, 2 or 3 cracks, and then reluctantly removed the impact of the body. Stopping his footsteps, Shi Zihao looked down at the wounds on his feet that were frozen by the cold, then raised his head to look at Kuzan, his eyes full of sarcasm. Is this the battle of Admiral of Headquarters? I actually used the sneak attack tactics. Today I really saw the majesty of Marine Admiral, but I fought but did sneak attacks. Faced with Shi Zihao's ridicule, Kuzan's face was very calm, and he said lightly, you provoked this battle, and I am no longer Marine Admiral. Even the identity of Marine is gone. Isn't it normal to deal with a guy like you by all means? Quote. It's really a good reason. With a slight suffocation at the corner of his mouth, Shi Zihao was disdainful of what Kuzan said. As he said, Shi Zihao's right foot suddenly stepped on the ground, and a powerful force burst out from the soles of the feet. With a powerful aura, burst out from the body, and the hard ice surface burst into pieces. The momentum rushed straight into the sky, an invisible strong wind surrounded both sides of the body, the strong wind rolled up the broken ice under the feet, and revolved around the body, there was a sudden roar, and a red wave of air immediately broke out of the body. The red-hot gas turned into a plume of air and rushed straight into the sky. The surrounding ice instantly evaporated and turned into white steam. The ice surface under my feet seemed to be pressed by a huge force invisibly, and the smooth ice surface was sinking little by little along the periphery. Down. 7 times out. With a loud shout, Shi Zihao squeezed his fists with both hands, and armament hockey was wrapped around his fists like a layer of black armor. There was a strong red wave radiating from his body. Shi Zihao stepped on his feet, turned into a burst of red light and shot out, and attacked Kuzan. With a move with Kuzan's right hand, his arm quickly climbed onto the white ice, and at the same time, the white chill was constantly exuding in the palm of his hand, and suddenly a group of head-sized ice balls gathered in the palm of his hand. Freezing time capsule. Waving the hockey puck in his hand, Kuzan suddenly waved at Shi Zihao who was rushing. The cold hockey puck dragged a white tail, and even the void seemed to be frozen. In the red figure, Shi Zihao stepped on his feet and flew into the air. The rolling red waves of air gathered on his hands, and little red light flowed in the meridians under his skin. Fire ghost. The tumbling air wave rushed into the sky, and this red beam of light attracted many people's attention in an instant. Shi Zihao squeezed his fists with both hands, and the powerful force in his body gathered in his fists, and shot forward like a violent storm. It's the same move as the Ghost Kill, but the Ghost Kill is a single-point attack, and the Fire Peacock is an all-round attack. The same high-speed punches and air friction generate flames, which are matched by the blows to the air. The shock wave mixed with the flame to launch a flame impact. Sacrificing a single power to increase the range of attack, the shock wave of burning flames is like a downpour, the flames covering half of the sky, the temperature between the sky and the earth has risen a lot, and a scorching hot wind slaps on the face. Bang! Bang! A continuous explosion sounded. Kuzan's air conditioning projectile did not even rise a spray, and was instantly extinguished under the impact of the flame. The impact is mixed with flames, and the total damage is 2 layers, and the flames can restrain the ice. Using Haki can also catch Logia Kuzan, and directly use a large-scale attack to completely smash all the ice below. Shi Zihao's plan is correct. But he undercounted a little. In the burning fire, an icicle flew out of the flames. Instead of melting the ice, the blazing flames gradually dissipated under the pressure of the cold air. In the next instant, dozens of icicles burst out of the flame one after another, and the blazing flame was completely extinguished under the pressure of the cold in an instant, exposing the blue water below. On the sea, icicles rose into the sky. 0. Shi Zihao, who was full of red air waves, was extremely fast, and his figure kept flashing, avoiding the attack of icicles. But at this moment, a force struck in the invisible void. Shi Zihao only felt a sense of crisis in his heart, and his instinct was about to dodge. But as soon as the front foot stepped out, an invisible force in the void formed a shackle, which tightly trapped Shi Zihao. What's the matter? What kind of power is this? Demon fruit power. Shi Zihao's face changed drastically. Although he could not see what was imprisoning him, he could clearly feel the invisible power in the void. At this moment, the ice cubes shattered in the sky floated strangely, and ice cubes large and small seemed to be manipulated by a pair of invisible hands, attacking Shi Zihao. Question mark. Open it to me. With his fists clenched, Shi Zihao let out a roar, and the mighty Haki burst out, and the red wave of air emanating from the entire body of the Haki layer doubled instantly. Click. There was a faint muffled sound, and it was annihilated by the sound of the tumbling air wave before it dispersed, but Shi Zihao could obviously feel the shackles on his body dissipate. The red-colored air wave rolled into the sky, and the ice block hitting just near the air wave range quickly disappeared in Kuzan's eyes, and Kuzan's figure appeared on a piece of ice. 5.7. Shi Zihao, whose eyes were full of dignity and vigilance, stared at Kuzan in front of him, but at this moment, a black shadow rushed out of a piece of broken ice. The shadow is extremely fast, and quickly rushes into the red air wave around Shi Zihao. The powerful red air wave cannot block the shadow in the slightest. Not good. When Shi Zihao realized the black shadow had already rushed in front of him, and the black shadow squeezed his fists with both hands and bombarded Shi Zihao's back like a sky cannon. Puff. Feeling an irresistible force came, all parts of the body trembled under the squeeze of this force, and several mouthfuls of blood spurted from his mouth, and Shi Zihao suddenly flew upside down like a broken kite. Kuzan's tricks turned to the black shadow, but the opponent easily avoided it. Chapter 191. Advertise here. The air conditioner that was evaded turned. What is this guy? Luo Ye looked curiously at the black figure who attacked Shi Zihao. Bang! Wow! A huge ice ball fell from the sky, and the frozen Shi Zihao could be clearly seen through the crystal clear ice. His face was distorted by pain and the bloodline remained at the corner of his mouth. The expression on his face was shocked at the last moment. How could Shi Zihao think that at this time, a strong man comparable to Kuzan would hide behind the ice and cooperate with Kuzan to carry out a sneak attack on him? As the ice hockey puck fell into the sea below, there was a scream, and a huge wave of tens of meters high was stirred up. The waves of several meters high spread out in a circle, rushing onto the ice, and the rolling sea was like a kettle. The boiling water is boiling. Fortunately, below is the sea water revealed by the previous Shi Zihao attack to melt the ice. If the puck falls directly on the ice surface, the huge gravity plus the impact force generated by the inertial heavy hit is enough to crush the puck. Shi Zihao, who was also frozen in the ice, would follow the broken ice, his whole body shattered like ice, and died completely. Looking at the ice ball falling into the sea below, Kuzan's solemn expression became more solemn. At the same time, my heart was relieved quietly, and the injury in 09 of my body was finally unable to be suppressed, and a faint ray of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Luo Ye and Kuzan looked at the black shadow in front of them together. As for Shi Zihao, I will talk about it later. Guardian. Luo Ye faintly looked at the dark shadow hidden in the black robe. Hey, my name is Mu. A lot of advice. I saw the opponent suddenly smashed his right hand into the ice. Boom. A large number of tree roots rose from the surface of the ice, forming giant trees in an instant, and one after another giant trees formed a forest in an instant. The abruptly rising forest on the hard ice seemed to bring some vitality to this white and merciless battlefield. But this is just another killing coming. There are giant trees standing above the white ice, the contrast between white and green, everything looks so strange. What's going on? What is this standing forest that broke through the ice of Kuzan Admiral? Marine was horrified. There is also Marine worry. The man who created this forest came to Luo Ye, so that the other party is Marine. Everyone began to retreat towards the outer forest. But at this time, Vice Admiral looked at the huge trees around, feeling a sense of crisis in his heart, although he didn't know what kind of murderous intent contained in this forest. But one thing can confirm that the other party can create a forest. This kind of power cannot be blocked by them. Now they are in the forest as if they are in the palm of the other party. This feeling of holding fate in the palm of someone else is not a good omen. On the pure white ice, Luo Ye's figure with one hand in Kabuto stands there like the Optimus Prime. And where Luo Ye looked at, a strange man with a mask was standing on a large branch. Looking calmly at the surrounding forest that rises on the ground, Kuzan beside Luo Ye showed a solemn face. What a strong power, it really is the Logia tree fruit. I didn't expect that one of the guards would have such a strong fruit ability. Question mark. It seems celestial dragons' forces really cannot look down upon, a group of seemingly refuse them. After all, the identity of the creator of the world standing on top of the world 8 years, with the heritage beyond imagination. Quote. Just Luo Ye think of something dark on the occasion, at the foot of a surge crisis hit, shadow flash, Luo Ye moved to the more than 10 meters away. Saw ice foot stand slightly raised, burst open, the ice in a thick root fly, Luo Ye penhold position just standing. Bang bang, ice burst, nearly a 1 meter wide, several meters long gully appears in the ice, but this power multiple shells. The branches, known as the guy, wood, his face showing a trace of surprise. It seems that this rumor is really simple, no wonder that Akainu also lost in each other's hands. Luo Ye suddenly opening. The temptation would not have had, as guardians of you, do not use this small moves to do something, if I have encountered a wood called before. Heard, the man apparently surprised a moment, then smiles. It seems a crazy guy than I am, but crazy does not change your fate to die today. Strangling trees. Hands pendulum, a faint green glow hands wrapped backhand up, man legs slightly bent, body slightly shaking hands seemed ordinary, if heavy burden. Question mark. As the man raised his hands, as if the entire forest with a life like those many trees began to shake, ice also will tremble, and came a click, click sound. Luo Ye replied. My fate was not to give people master as well, like I told myself down compared to control destiny. All of a sudden, dozens of voices coming from the foot, ice burst of sound, there are several tens minimum adult body thickness huge tree roots break through the ice. Life seems to have huge roots, like dancing, waving like a whip, standing straight into the ice Luo Ye hit. Call out, call out, observation hockey has backed, with terrible speed, Luo Ye quickly figure among these flash hit roots. Avoid open roots attack, Luo Ye provocative. The only way you, not such a huge attack, only this level, and if so, it would be too disappointing. It looked at the screen, I do not know who the man in the mask to hide his face with what the following expression, just listen to its opening. Do not be too carried away, if you think only of the case, it would be wrong. Cypress cage, voice down, the number of roots from all 10 hit, will produce an increase in the number of quality changes, in order to completely block the escape route Luo Ye, the separation distance between each of the number of the difficult even by a child. Hit a tree 227 is overwhelming, even the sun gave shelter, as if living in the absence of the night, but rang shrill piercing sound. Electricity crackling sound, a road of red and black lightning Pichu, Conqueror's hockey surrounds Luo Ye. Seemingly random lightning Pichu, already with a special trajectory, caused by an invisible force field around the space. Pillai Root's invisible forces will give all against a few meters away, did not anywhere. Bright red-black lightning flashing around the void, taking advantage of this time, Luo Ye zeroed in on the recent roots, raised his palms wave, a black and red arm thick bolt of lightning above the roots. Boom. Question mark. As really the case, you can enter inside trees yes Logia fruit Kuzan looked at this screen face solemn. A vague smile suddenly appeared on the thick roots, smile more and more clear, the man-masked figure gradually emerge. Conqueror's wound, so terrible was hit, then, all seriously injured, but now. Rub while cracking sound interrupted Kuzan of meditation, the whole body can clearly see an empty crack spread, even if the outcome of the void are facing collapse. I saw the outside of the roots, I do not know when, one by one thick green vines like a snake wrapped around the periphery of the roots, shrinking green vines, add up the power, far more than Kuzan imagination, toward the Luo Ye and Kuzan rushed past. Question mark. Giant strangling vine. Chapter 192. Advertise here. Just when Luo Ye was fighting with a man who called himself, Wood. Above distant seas, Momosuke, who was looking for Luo Ye, and the group of Whitebeard pirates met by chance on an isolated island. Captain Rakio. The pirates of the Whitebeard pirate group saw Rakio being knocked out again, and blood was spit out from the inverted figure. Bang bang bang. After rolling several times along the ground, Luck rolled around, turned around, and landed on the ground with his feet, making a harsh rubbing sound, and 2 parallel scratches appeared on the hard ground. After retreating for a few meters, Rakio barely stopped the retreating figure, and quickly raised his head to look at the beautiful figure standing in front of him. The bloodline at the corner of the mouth still ran down, dripping down the chin toward the ground, like a blossoming blood flower, but Lakyo had no attention to it anymore. He understands that the naval headquarters Momosuke vice admiral he is facing is far more powerful than himself, and one who is not careful is likely to be in danger of death. Staring at Momosuke, Rakyo reached out and erased the bloodline from the corner of his mouth. He was already shocked. I didn't expect that there would be such a character in High Vice Admiral, and she is also a female Vice Admiral. These are candidates for Admiral. Marine Vice Admiral, is the strength so terrifying? But fortunately, she has quit Marine. Regarding the name of the other Marine Admiral candidate of Momosuke Vice Admiral in front of him, it was also what Rakyol heard from Marine in the previous battle. As the 14th captain of the Whitebeard pirates, Rakyol ranked 7th. Although he is not an opponent of Marine Admiral, Lakyo is confident that except for a few people in Marine Vice Admiral who can threaten his life, the rest of the Marine soldiers are not to be afraid. But now, the female Marine Vice Admiral that this suddenly met, indeed has a strong strength, it can be said that she has completely abused herself. Regardless of the identity of the other party, but being beaten like this by a woman as a man, Rakyol still feels shame in his heart. Momosuke, who has a beautiful face and sexy figure, plus a V-neck shirt on the upper body, perfectly sets off the stalwartness of his chest. Together with the ultra-thin black silk from Luo Ye, it is really beautiful. It's just that our beautiful Momosuke doesn't seem to be in a good mood at the moment, and no one can see the anger hidden underneath on his gloomy and pretty face. It seems that someone made Momosuke annoyed. After all, Luo Ye hadn't been by his side for so long, and met the pirate again. As for Rakyo, it can only be said that he was unlucky, and it happened to be the target of Momosuke's anger. With Rakyo's strength alone, facing Momosuke is a complete abuse. The captain of the Whitebeard 7th Division, Rakoyo, if you don't have any other power, then your footsteps can only stop here. That's it, the long sword in his hand is flipped, and Momosuke's indifference is indescribable. Rakyo, who erased the bloodline of his mouth, stood up, holding the weapon in his right hand, the meteor hammer. His eyes were unspeakably solemn. As Momosuke said, the odds of winning against Momosuke alone were almost zero. Quote. Go together. Suddenly, 5 pirates rushed out of the pirates who had dealt with opponent Marine. The 5 pirates surrounded Momosuke tightly, holding sharp swords in their hands, and the 5 pirates flew up and swung their swords straight towards Momosuke. Holding the famous sword Jinburo in her hand, she seemed to be thin, but she was powerful, and she slashed out with the sword, and the sharp slash cut through the void and slashed towards the pirate rushing in front of her. Before these ordinary pirates could react, the slashing speed was extremely fast. The 2 attacking pirates in front of him were chopped in half. Falling on the ground, an extremely bloody smell radiated along the air. With a flick of his feet, Momosuke's figure flashed, and along the gap opened by the 2 dead pirates, he left the pirates' encirclement, and the attacks of the other 3 pirates were all empty. Disappeared. Looking at the former companions on the ground, they are now so miserably dead. The opened eyes seemed to tell their unwillingness. The 3 pirates suddenly rose in anger, and quickly swept their eyes around, looking for Momosuke's disappearance. Figure, revenge for lost companions. Hey, go away, you are not his opponent. Rakyol shouted anxiously. At the moment when the 5 pirates attacked Momosuke, Rakyol shook his heart and rushed over. Even he was defeated by Momosuke. How could these 5 ordinary pirates be Momosuke's opponents, and rushing to them with their strength was completely dead. Rakyo seemed to have seen the scene where they were killed by Momosuke. Puff. A pirate let out a muffled sound, and then severe pain struck from the abdomen. The pirate couldn't help but look down, and a sword tip stained with bright red blood emerged from his body. The suspicious gaze seemed to ask how the other party moved to his back and killed himself. The vitality quickly dissipated, and the body that lost strength fell towards the ground. Momosuke pulled out the sword that pierced the pirate's body with a force. From the 2 pirates to the 3rd pirate was beheaded, everything has not passed for a second. There was no revenge in the eyes of the other 2 pirates, and some were only deeply frightened. Only then did they realize that their combat power with Momosuke was worlds apart. Shua. A cold light flashed from Momosuke's indifferent gaze. Although he has retired from Marine, he has been a just Marine for many years and never needs sympathy for evil pirates. Call. At this moment, Rakyol finally arrived, the meteor hammer in his hand quickly smashed out, the sound of breaking through the air sounded, and the spiked hammer was about to hit Momosuke's head. Although the combat power is more than that of Rakyol, he dare not underestimate Momosuke in the face of Lakyu attack. No matter what, Rakyol is also the captain of Whitebeard Pirates 7th Zhao team, the Marine Central African Mole, such an elite vice admiral, cannot be underestimated. Deal with. The sword in his hand changed from slashing to slashing, and the sharp sword was swung horizontally, and the soft tip of the sword slammed against Lakyo's hammer. There was a muffled sound, and then an invisible impact clung to the ground like waves spreading out. 2 pirates who thought to be dead hadn't reacted to what happened, and then they were hit by the invisible impact. The force of the impact hits the chests of 2 pirates like a heavy hammer. Under the impact of this invisible force, the entire chest sank in, and blood spurted from the mouth. The faces of the 2 pirates were full of disbelief. Just the shockwave possessed such power. How far the power contained in the collision between the 2 was. Click. There was a slight cracking sound, which was subtle but clearly transmitted to Momosuge and Lakyo's ears, and different expressions appeared on their faces. Chapter 193. Advertise here. Momosuge's face showed a slight joy, while the relative Rakyul's complexion changed drastically. The meteor hammer in his hand was only made of ordinary material, which was incomparable with the famous sword Kimbiro in Momosuge's hand. After many collisions, the hammer in his hand finally couldn't bear it, and a small crack appeared. But this seemed to be a signal. The cracks expanded rapidly, and several cracks spread all over the hammer in the blink of an eye, until the end. Bang! The hammer finally couldn't stand it and broke apart, and the impact of the explosion blasted both of them into their chests. Whether it was Momosuge or Rakyut, only a pressure came, and the blood in his chest rolled over. Puff! A mouthful of blood spurted directly from Rakyul's mouth. In the previous battle, Rakyul had accumulated a lot of injuries in his body, and at this time he couldn't bear the impact. Momosuge, who was not injured, and his physical fitness was stronger than that of Lakyo, so he forced his body to withdraw from the tumbling chi and blood pressure. The speed of the cracked iron piece given by the impact increased instantly, as if even the air could cut through, and the power was no less than the bullet shot from the gun. File clang. File clang. Momosuge, who retreated, still reacted extremely quickly, swiftly swinging the sharp sword in his hand, and stabbing several swords one after another. But Momosuge's sword is too fast, as if several swords are pierced together, forming a blooming sword flower, which will pick up all the iron pieces that hit. A cyan light suddenly flew by, and Margot, who rushed to grab the regressive Lakyo, the cyan flame double 227 spread his wings, turned around, unloaded the impact from Lakyo, and immediately released Lakyo. Then he flew towards Momosuge with a kick, the cyan flame burned, and his right foot turned into a sharp claw in the burning flame. Margot's attack speed is extremely fast. Momosuge, who was just steadily walking, can't react at all. At this moment, Momosuge stabs forward with a sword. Since it can't stop it, it can't make the other party look good. This is a move that damages 1,000 enemies in 800. Although she is a woman, she can become an admiral candidate among many marine vice admiral. Don't underestimate Momosuge's determination. Question mark. Boom. Puff. After two muffled noises, Momosuge's sword pierced Margot's body first, and then Margot kicked Momosuge's shoulder. The pain from the shoulder caused Momosuge Yintao's small mouth to make a muffled sound. Marcos the blood was also drawn out of Jinpailuo, and it was so vivid on Momosuge's white and smooth skin like suet jade, and then it flew out like a broken kite. The famous sword Jinpailu was drawn out with Momosuge, who was flying backwards. This kind of self-damaging 1,000 enemies and 800 damage was of no use to Margot. He was known as the existence of a phoenix. Opening the distance from Margot, Momosuge said in a condensed voice, "The captain of the Whitebeard pirate group, phenomenal Margot. Admiral of Headquarters candidate Vice Admiral Momosuge. You have clearly left Marine, what else do you want to do now?" Kick Momosuge with one kick, and Margot prevails in pursuit. For such a strong man, if you don't stop them, the opponent will continue to kill you. The wings spread, and the air wave rolled. The cyan flame surrounding the middle Margot seemed to turn into a stream of light, and instantly caught up with Momosuge, turning over and pressing down Momosuge's foot towards the ground. Flutter. Stepping on high heels and stepping into the air, using moonwalk to fly into the air, Momosuge is like a beautiful butterfly fairy. Its body is flying, its speed soars, and its body moves out, avoiding Margot's attack. Bang! There was a loud noise, and the hard ground could not bear the heavy blow and exploded. Large and small stones flew up and slapped around, turning into dust as the air wave rolled and quickly dispersed. Question mark. Call. The wings spread out, and there was a gust of wind. White air flowed around the wings. Margot and Momosuge were suspended in midair together. At this time, they seemed to be the masters of the battlefield sky. Huh, what are you Whitebeard pirates doing here? What about the residents of the island? Momosuge waved Kimbiro in his hand, and constantly waved terrifying slashes at Marco. Huh, I don't know that kind of thing, we just came here too. After Marco heard Momosuge's question, he quickly denied that although he was a pirate, he was still not looking for civilians hungry. Lie. On the warship, Marine Vice Admiral looked at the forest in the distance, and the huge forest growing on the ice was constantly surging. The celestial dragon's hands were too long, so they sent the guards over, but they didn't even discuss with Marine at all. What should Marine do at this time? Do you subordinate? Question mark. Anyone can hear the anger contained in the tone of Marine Vice Admiral. Feeling the dignity of Vice Admiral when he mentioned the guards, the surrounding Marines were very curious about the man who appeared suddenly. So he asked curiously, "Vice Admiral, what exactly is this guardian? There shouldn't be this institution in the world government, right?" Hey, I didn't know that he sighed for Kuzan, who appeared on the warship, and said, "Originally, this was only known to the top of the world government, but now it is not a big deal to tell that the guard belongs to the world government, but is controlled by celestial dragons." Vice Admiral ignored the appearance of Kuzan and just looked at the forest in the distance. When the surrounding Marines saw that Vice Admiral didn't react to Kuzan, they listened carefully. After all, Kuzan was still Marine Admiral not long ago. Kuzan slowly said, "The world government was established by 20 ambitious kings 800 years ago. So far, it has become the largest organization that has 170 franchise nations and rules the world. Quote. But what does this have to do with the guards? The surrounding Marines were puzzled. Everyone in the world knew about these things. After a pause, Kuzan continued to explain, after the establishment of the world government, all the 20 ambitious kings moved into the holy land of Mariajoy. Since then, they have been called celestial dragons for creating the world government, and at the same time claiming to be descendants of the creator. In their view, there would be no world without them creating the world government. However, at the time when the world government was just established, some of the king's loyal guards and subordinates moved into the holy land Mariajoy together. These ambitious kings who can propose to control the world clearly understand that if they want other forces to obey them and guarantee their status, absolute power is inevitable. Question mark. Therefore, with the king going to Mariajoy at that time there were their most loyal and powerful guards. These loyal guards have guarded them for generations, which is now the celestial dragons, maintaining the status of celestial dragons. Hearing this, the Marines were all surprised, how terrible it is to form the most powerful forces in the hands of the 20 kings, and couldn't help asking, but since there is such a power, why the world doesn't know at all? Kuzan put his hands on his chest. That's because as the world government becomes stronger and stronger, who dares to challenge celestial dragons' transcendent status? Over time, this power has not been used, and has gradually disappeared from the eyes of the world for 800 years. Question mark. But they did not completely disappear over time, and gradually became a transcendent existence, but they control a powerful force. It is rumored that the number of guardians is very small, but they are all demon fruit power. This one is one of them. Devil fruit is used. After listening to Kuzan's explanation, the Marines were a bit stunned. In their eyes, celestial dragons, who have been relying on the power of the world government to dominate and call trash, have such a powerful force in their hands. Question mark. Suddenly, Kuzan released his hands, mocking his face. Guardian. It's a good name, but it's a pity that it's not justice, but the interests of some rubbish. Shi Zihao, who was sealed in the ice beside Kuzan, nodded inwardly. Chapter 194. Advertise here. At the top of the vine, the man appeared from the vine and smiled and said, haha. I thought you Luo Ye was so powerful. It seems that Gai Jin is just a big talk, just a guy with a good tongue. The power of more than 10 vines gathered together, even if a warship can squeeze them into a ball, he will undoubtedly die. The next moment, the man's laughter had not yet fallen, and a sharp black-red slash flew out from the roots of the tree wrapped in vines. Both the roots and the vines were chopped in half. Slash wave. Wooden shield. A black shadow came out. In the shocked expression of the man, Luo Ye's right foot covered by armament hockey suddenly kicked on the shield formed by the closed man's arms. Don't underestimate this wooden shield. After compression by men, the hardness of this wooden shield is comparable to steel. Bang! Under the horrified gaze of the man, Luo Ye's arm-colored hardened right leg kicked the shield comparable to steel with one kick, and the powerful force kicked it directly on the man's chest, kicking it out. On this level, like a kite with a broken line, the man was kicked out of a big hole in the mouth of the man's chest. The big hole penetrated the man's entire body. Gather the power of hockey on the legs and rotate like a spiral. Accompanied by the spiral hockey kicked out of the right foot, the force is perfectly vented at one point. Even the hardest sea stone of the same thickness can drill a big hole. But at the entrance of the cave, there were only charred wood chips with a touch of sparks. Most of Mu's body had been completely turned into wood, and the whole person became a wooden golem. Floating in the air, two sturdy tree vines appeared under the wooden feet on a big tree, stopping the inverted figure, and a trace of bloodline was exposed from the corner of the mouth. The foot is attached to armament hockey's attack, coupled with Luo Ye's strength, it is impossible for Mu to take that intact. It seems that I am going to take it back, erase the bloodline beside his mouth, and the contempt in the wood's eyes completely dissipated. That guy is right. If I underestimate you, I'm likely to hate here. That guy, Luo Ye muttered in a low voice, with a hint of curiosity on his face. At the next moment, the calm forest shook again, and Luo Ye felt that the sound of breaking through the sky sounded in the forest. Suddenly, amidst these bursts of air, there were screams and cry for help, as if he knew what had happened. Luo Ye's slightly frowned brows could not conceal his inner anger. Question mark. I saw a cautious marine in the outer area of this forest, retreating toward the forest with a high degree of vigilance, controlling the boat. In particular, the vibrations and shocks from time to time in the air caused a lot of Marine's inner fear, and his body could not restrain his shaking. After all, the forest suddenly expanded just now to cover the hull. Although Kuzan is here, they are no longer Marine. Everyone knew in their hearts that in this weird forest, only the masked man and Luo Ye who were fighting could make such a movement. The battle between Luo Ye and the masked man not only did not give everyone peace of mind, but deepened everyone's fear. Do you think that when you see big trees suddenly have life in front of you, the roots of the trees under the ice surface break out, and the huge vines on the trunks slide, can you feel at ease? In the eyes of many Marines, this forest is full of unspeakable fear. Seeing the light, we can finally leave this King forest. Yes, Laozi doesn't want to stay here for another second anymore. If you continue to stay, Laozi will definitely go crazy. While some of the Marines were whispering, the ice outside had appeared in front of them, and some people had escaped in front of them, and there were still a few meters away. There are still a few meters. Suddenly, At this moment, a terrible scene happened, and I saw vines flying up from the surrounding big trees, and I wanted to suddenly have life. What? Why did these things suddenly attack us? Shouldn't they be overridden to attack Luo Ye? Help, help, which one will help? Help, me. These vines are like giant snakes, grabbing the person closest to them, then winding up and hanging upside down on the thick tree trunk. These vines have a very powerful force and tightly wrap around a person's body, just like a giant snake dealing with its prey. More than 10 seconds later, a marine's bloodshot eyes protruded and he died immediately. 0. Look for flowers. As if it were a signal, a named marine died shortly thereafter. Asshole. Looking at this scene, watching the marine soldiers die tragically in front of him one by one, Kuzan's eyes were flushed like beasts, and the anger in his chest erupted like a volcano. Question mark. Die to me, Ice Age. With a loud shout, a clenched right fist blasted out, facing a vine that had attacked him. A powerful force burst out, the vine burst with a bang, and the sawdust was flying. Question mark. To solve the vine with one blow, Kuzan jumped, and the terrifying cold directly froze all the surrounding giant trees. A large number of vines entangled the bodies of marine soldiers. If you think this is terrible, then you are wrong. The real terrible has just begun. The dead pirate and marines, their bodies have shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye, their bodies are just beginning. These vines have been swallowed extremely quickly. In the past 10 seconds or so, the originally strong warrior has only one skin hugged his bones, no. It should be said to hang on the bones. These vines are eating people, and they devour the human body little by little, leaving only the skin and bones left. It seems that I still underestimate the limits of your rubbish, Kuzan gritted his teeth. Everyone can perceive Kuzan's anger at this time. You are really disgusting. Luo Ye, who perceives what is happening through seeing and hearing, said to Mu Ping flatly, but under the flatness there is deep sea-like anger. 1. Ha ha eh. Hearing that, instead of feeling ashamed and angry, Mu instead laughed, feeling as if he had done something very proud. Putting away his smile, Mu said very casually, these are some low-blooded garbage. They use their lives to help me. This is something they should feel proud of. They are low-blooded like you, just like ants, even if they die. Thousands of thousands have no effect on this world. With that arrogant gaze, looking at anything revealed a kind of contempt for everything. Righteous. Chapter 195. Advertise here. Instant. In the next instant, Luo Ye's figure appeared in front of Mu, and in his horrified eyes, Luo Ye's slap was slashed toward his cheek. Question mark. Garbage like you, there is no word in the world to describe you these noble garbage. The powerful force burst out, and the wood flew directly away. Although the timely elementalization would block the damage, the slap seemed to be drawn in the heart, and it was hot and painful. You humble blood dared to hit me, or hit me in the face. Mu raised his head and couldn't believe his eyes as Luo Ye who slapped himself in front of him. Who I am the guardian of celestial dragons. In the eyes of many guards like Mu, since they entered Mariajoy 800 years ago, the bloodline of their bodies has surpassed those lowly humans and races. And now he was slapped away by humble blood, in the most humiliating way. Unbearable, unbearable, you guy who insults our noble blood. Mu's body trembled violently, and the anger in his heart was like an erupting volcano. Wooden snake entanglement. Stretching his right arm forward, his arm quickly turned into 4 sticks of wood, flying out with a big mouth. Swish. With a 1,000-blade magic sword in his hand, several slashes burst out. Although I don't know what the power of these wooden snakes are, as long as they are cut off, they will burp me no matter how powerful they are. This is not an ordinary wooden snake, it has the same effect as those vines. If it is bitten, the wooden snake will quickly absorb the flesh and blood of the human body to sit on its own nutrients for its growth. Question mark. The slash is powerful, slashing the attacking wooden snake, but instead of dissipating, it rushes towards the wood. Wood cane thorn. 4 vines rushed out under the feet, and the vines with thick arms quickly became smaller in the process of rushing, and the entire volume was compressed to a quarter. This is because the wood has already used the ability to dissipate water, compressing the density to 8 times the previous, thereby increasing the hardness of the vine by more than 3 times. Bang bang. With 4 explosions in succession, Luo Ye's slash was completely dissipated under the block of the vines. At the same time as the sound rang, a black shadow appeared behind the wood. The black shadow turned into Luo Ye. He raised the flashing black and red arc of his right hand, turning into a hand and cutting it towards the back of the wood. Luo Ye said with disdain, noble garbage is still garbage in nature. Even if the owner who steps on your head, their noble blood is not even a fart in front of me, and you are nothing. Conqueror's winding black cut. Conqueror's hockey turned into substance, lightning flashed continuously, gathered in the small palms, and the invisible Conqueror's hockey was condensed into a solid state and turned into a blade of hand. The powerful armament hockey covered his right hand, transformed into a black blade, merged with the black and red lightning-shaped Conqueror's hockey, and the entire right hand seemed to be transformed into a real black knife. Cut it down with a single knife, and even the endless darkness of the sky can be cut in half. The name Haichi may be a bit exaggerated, but it is enough to prove the power of this trick. Mu immediately noticed a breath of death, and if he were completely hit, Mu would not suspect that he would die under this move. The profound truth of wood, rebirth, the armor of Fujiki. Rattans emerge from the body to form a green rattan armor that wraps the whole body, but reflects light like metal. Luo Ye's hand blade touched the vine armor, and time seemed to be forbidden for one moment and the next. Boom. I saw that in the forest standing in the ice field, as soon as the mushroom cloud slowly rose, the orange fire shining on the sky, and the forest was destroyed in patches. In the horrified eyes of many marines and pirates, the impact of the explosion turned into a storm that swept the entire battlefield. The marines who are closest to the forest are the most unlucky. The shock wave hits them, and they feel that they are pressed by a huge rock, and their chest is stuffy, and the irresistible force knocks them out. The impact scraped across the ice, and the several-meter-high waves that were frozen by the ice did not even resist at all, just like tofu dregs. After the impact was scraped, it turned into blocks of ice of various sizes, scattered on the sea. The shock wave swept across the entire battlefield extremely quickly, and did not completely dissipate until the bombardment hit the surrounding defensive walls. Except for the poor guy near the forest who was severely injured by the shock wave, the other marine and the pirates just felt a gust of wind blowing and did not take any harm. The sea slowly blows in from the harbor, and the white icy fog gradually dissipates, leaving only 1/3 of the entire forest. From a high altitude, a large pit with a diameter of hundreds of meters lies in the middle of the forest. As for the huge trees, they turned into sawdust and deposited around the big hole. 0. The terrible shock dissipated, and the marines walked away again. This level of battle is not something that little men like them can mix. As long as these big men fight and don't involve them in it, it's best. What they can do is thinking about how to save their lives on the basis of achieving their goals. Are you going to tell the winner? On the hull, Aokiji looked down at the huge ice pit, where two figures stood tall. At the bottom of the ice pit, the black and red light on Luo Ye's arm has become very faint, like a flame in the squally wind. It will dissipate with a single blow. However, the condition of the wood is worse than Luo Ye. The vine and wood armor on his body is only a little short of being cut through, and the skin behind him can already feel a sharp and murderous air. Crackling. Luo Ye's body flickered with black and red lightning, and a large amount of Conqueror's hockey poured into his arm, only the black blades with black and red shadows quickly solidified. Question mark. Not good. The power of the Fujiki number 1 has been exhausted. Mew just wrote the word bad on the mask. The part of the vine and wood armor on his chest quickly melted into his body. Mew knew clearly in his heart that the vine and wood armor on his body had lost the strength to grow, and he continued to resist. It must be yourself. At this moment, Luo Ye's Conqueror's 5.7 winding blade finally broke through the cane blockade and slashed on the wood elemental body. The powerful force can only arouse the flying sawdust, but it is difficult to cause damage to the elemental wood. Ba Quan. The black and red blade phantom was completely dissipated when the hand blade was turned over, and the right hand squeezed out a fist. The pitch black fist turned into a black streamer and bombarded the back of the wood. With a bang, the powerful force poured out like a flood, and at the same time a dark energy entered the wood body, and the regressing wood spouted out a mouthful of old blood directly from his mouth. Question mark. In Luo Ye's slightly surprised gaze, Mew unexpectedly chose to fight his own punch, with the help of his own strength, to increase his speed, and thus to distance himself from him. This wood is not a simple man, not only treats his enemies cruelly, but also treats himself very cruelly.